Good evening. Welcome to our West Covina City Council meeting. Today is January the 17th, 2023, and it is 7:05. Tonight's invocation will be held by Pastor Kelly Dupay from Faith Community Church, and Councilman Wu will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the privilege of living and working in the great city of West Covina. And Lord, I thank you for the men and women that you have placed in authority over us as our city council. We thank you, Lord, for this role that they have, the responsibility they have to lead our city and to bring justice and to care for every single resident and every single person that lives and works here. And we thank you, Lord, for this meeting tonight. We pray that your presence would bless them, Lord, that you would give them wisdom, God, that you would be with them and the procedures and everything that's happening in the meeting, Lord. Let your peace be upon this meeting now. Father, we also lift up all of the men and women who are serving in our police and fire departments and our military that's overseas. Father, be with them and keep them safe. Use them, Lord, to do your work in our community and all around the world. So, Father, we lift them up and we thank you, Lord, for your presence and what you're going to do as you lead our city council and as you bless our city. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Everyone, please put your right hand to your heart and face the flag and follow my lead. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Assistant City Clerk, can we have roll call, please? Can we have? Let's put that up.
It's happening.
Okay, roll call, please.
Good evening, Mayor. Councilmember Contos.
Here.
Councilman Wu.
Here.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Diaz. Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai.
Present.
Mayor Diaz.
Present. City Attorney, is there anything to be reported out of our closed session?
Nothing, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Tonight, presentations. Tonight, we're recognizing and congratulating Fire Captain Brent Ham on his retirement. Captain Ham. Captain Ham has been working for the West Covina Fire Department for 32 years. That is a long time, and that is so wonderful. I'd like to call up Chief Capelli and Captain Ham to come down.
Testing.
Thank you. I just want to congratulate you again, and I'm so happy, and I just want to wish you well in your endeavors, and I hope you get to relax now, and you look so young to be retiring.
I would say I feel young, but I've been very fortunate.
Very good.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council, staff, citizens, fellow brother and sister from the fire department. Captain Ham, retiring. Well, he's already retired, but holidays, so we had to do it now. So, got a few things to say. Captain Brent Ham did a total of 32 years of public service with the city of West Covina. He began his career on December 17th, 1990, after going to Mount Sac Fire Academy. He graduated from Azusa Pacific, playing football there, while serving in the ranks of firefighter, paramedic, and captain. And his last position was captain for 18 years. That's a lot of years to run an engine and to run a house and teach people and be the leader. You were instrumental, apparently, in the auxiliary program. You're an advisor, which is good. Just learned a few things last couple, getting ready for tonight. So Brent was also assisted in the implementation of our infectious control program. And he's he's avid in sports. I know that. We all know that. He definitely knows about sports, playing football. He was a vital part of the softball team. We could have used him a couple months ago when we didn't win any teams, and I actually had to play on the team.
That's when I felt you.
That's when he felt you, yeah. It was so bad I had to play. So it wasn't good. You also on the Olympics, the golf team. I know we all know you play golf a lot. He plays a lot more golf now, probably. He's always been a mentor and always strived to show everybody to be physically fit, as you could tell, looking young, as the mayor stated. He was always working out. The time that I got to work with him, he worked out maybe 3 times a day, if I would say. But twice a day. But a lot of it was coming back from calls and running calls and then doing it and just staying healthy and ready to go to serve the community. Captain Ham was always a mentor to the new firefighters, was there, ready for training, and that was good. Your nickname was Hammer, but I think that's because your last name, because I don't think you were a Hammer from what I saw. I don't know if anybody would disagree with that, but his nickname was Hammer. You responded to a number of big fire campaigns, wildland fire campaigns over the years, some of the big ones, recent ones in the past, so he always put himself in a position to be on equipment that was very vital to the community, on the truck, on the wildland units, and respond to those type of calls. Also received a couple life-saving awards and a unit citation. Integrity, pride, and dedication is core values of the fire department. And when I met Brett a little over 5 years ago, I don't know if he'll remember, I'll tell a quick story. We had a fire at the noodle place over on McIntyre Square. And it was the first fire when I got here as an assistant chief. And it didn't go too great. The communication was a very small fire. When we got back, the first thing Brent was, hey, let's bring out the policy manual, the procedures manual, let's all get together. And that really showed his dedication to have everybody on the same page to serve this community. Sat with me and said, this is what we have here, is how we can do better. This is what we did better there. And it was just great. I don't know if you remember that, but you brought out the big old book and we sat down and talked. And it really showed me this was an upstanding leader of our department. And that,
I do remember that, yeah.
Okay, and that sat with me. A couple things. I asked a few people, what are some funny things about Brent? Can somebody come up with some stuff I can say about him or whatever? And only one person gave me 2 things. It was tomatoes need to be cut the proper way. They can't be too thick for a sandwich. And toilet paper roll is beards are okay, mullets are not. I'm assuming those are correct?
Simple. That's not just me, right? It's like
So,
civilized community.
So, Brandon, on behalf of the West Covina Fire Department, the citizens of West Covina, the council, I want to thank you for your years of service, public servant. It has been a pleasure to work with you the time I got to. We'll miss you, the institutional knowledge, and everything is great, and I wish you a lot of luck.
Pleasure.
We do have a few things. We have a few... Oh, there you go. We have a few things for you. First, we have a certificate. You want to read it? You want me to read it? Or?
Okay, we have a certificate here from the West Covina, certificate of recognition of Brent Ham, captain, for his dedication of 32 years in service. And it's signed by me, and I just want to congratulate you again. And we also have a street sign here. Ham Court.
Aww. I love it. We have one more thing. Oh, things doesn't like me. We have one more thing. When a firefighter retires, we have to take back their badge. You don't get to keep them because they're no longer at that rank. However, you do get a retirement badge. It says you're retired. So cool. There's your retirement badge. So you can keep that. We have this, and again, thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Say some stuff? Go ahead. Go ahead. Got time?
Are you sure? Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank God. It truly has been a blessing to have such an amazing career, a mostly safe career. I'd like to thank my wife and family for all your love and support. I couldn't have done it without you. And just real quick, I want to acknowledge my wife because, as we know, and you guys are going to be able to relate, it doesn't matter if you work a day, 2 days, or 10 days. Things go sideways when you're at work. You have a plumbing issue, a vehicle issue, wild animals, whatever you have, and Kat was always there to handle the problems. And that really made it comforting for me to do my job. So thank you. My partners in the Fire Association, I love you guys. Thank you for the brotherhood, and keep up the strong work. Chief Capelli and the fire department, thank you. The city, it's been an honor to be part of such a tremendous organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, we've come to our oral communications. We will now move on, and if anyone would like to address the council, please fill out one of your yellow speaker cards and submit it to the Assistant City Clerk, please. How many do we have?
We have 10 speakers, Mayor.
10 speakers, okay.
Our first speaker is Armando Herman, followed by Chris Miller, followed by Mike Greenspan. Armando Herman.
Me?
Followed by Chris Miller, followed by Mike Greenspan.
Goddamn! Welcome to 2023, everybody. But as we all know from Brandenburg, U.S. 395-44-1969, you're a dirty nigga. And the reason why I do not refrain from using a dirty nigga, as I quoted Brandenburg versus Ohio, because again, based on Snyder versus Phelps, the content that I shall read, God hates the USA, thank God for 9/11. America is doomed to item number 8, your microwave bullshit and all your COVID. Yes, pray for the USA. Thank God for IEDs, Mayor. Fast troops, fag troops, simplify fags. God hates fags. Maryland Taliban, matter of fact. Fag doom nation, not blessed, just cursed. Thank God for dead soldiers and your fucking Benedict Pope in hell. Priest rake boys, you're going to hell. God hates you. So I read this decision by the United States Supreme Court 562 U.S. 443 into the record because I know that I'm dealing with rotten motherfuckers in our society that tend to rip off the public. And when you put your decisions for microwaves like on item 8 into our communities, we know that you're fucking killing us the way they did with COVID vaccinations that we're still under an emergency based on the jackass governor from California, your shithole governor, Gavin Newsom, Mr. Woo. And for that information, on top of my readings, I'm going to read Downey Latino into the record because it simplifies what words are. Constituent Mr. Blank, other wackos that have fouled the air of every council meeting for the last 3 years or more, despite a new public control policy. And as I said, there is no longer First Amendment or free speech because we deal with dirty niggers who want to suppress us. Mr. David Carmani. And I'm here as an example of what the Constitution says about your rights. And you will fight for every inch, and I will send every motherfucking Jew back to Israel. Quote unquote, Brandenburg versus Ohio. And the reason why 2023 is so fucking great, because we no longer have Baldy here with us to fuck with us anymore. Because he's a punk little bitch, crybaby, and he's out of this council horseshoe. So I'm looking for change from the pro champ because I have respect for him. Now don't construe my word fag or faggots or homosexual comments because they're not. I just clearly put on record the decision by the Supreme Court heard in the U.S. 562-443 Snyder versus Phelps. So 42 U.S.C. 1983, the color of law, 18 U.S.C. 242 and 245, respected by words. Words do not hurt. It's the action behind the words that constitute a violation of what free speech and your free expression is. Otherwise, Rosario Diaz's husband should have never granted Mr. Brian Tabatabi a year ago while I was sitting in here simply because he was being a man to speak up what he believes his testimony for the record was on the issue, Madam Mayor. In addition to that, we see Mommy Letty's back. She's not wearing her wedding ring. She's a free woman, free at last, free for all. The same way George Santos from New York, that lying piece of shit, motherfucker, asshole, shithole politician, lied his way into Congress, and that's the reason why America is doomed and fucked for how many more years? Too many! So it's time to take action. Support and protect free speech. Defend this country for every inch. From now and sooner or later for America.
Thank you.
Chris Miller, followed by Mike Greenspan, followed by Rosa Rios.
Hello, Council. It's been a while. Yeah. So, just a statement. I don't agree with the Emergency Act for COVID or weather, but I am here today to talk about our underpass and Vincent. Now, I'm a mechanical engineer for 27 years working at P2S, and I've done plenty of mechanical systems for buildings and infrastructure. It's abhorrent that we have a flooding situation. And to me, having a sign saying potential for flooding is unacceptable. Back in November, I did an information request for the last 10 years for maintenance of our underpasses. And the records are pretty shoddy. There's just check marks, little blurbs. Nothing says, pumps have been rebuilt, no motor replacements, nothing. And in reality, what needs to happen is to update all the pump stations with a common pump and a variable speed drive. By doing that, if we could have in stock an extra drive and an extra pump and motor, so if any of them fail, we could replace it on the fly and not have a situation that we have currently on Vincent. Secondly, by putting in a Venturi balancing valve, which Griswold makes one, you can actually do flow tests on the pumps and see real time what is going on with the pump during storm situations or during maintenance checks to basically see when pumps are going bad and to do service. It would do away with just going every month or whatever to see and inspect the pumps. You could get real-time data. I'm available for consultation for free. I'm sick of seeing our city run down. I wouldn't mind helping as long as, we have results. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Greenspan, followed by Rosa Rios, followed by Jerry Patras.
Mike Greenspan, I hope everybody had a good Christmas vacation. After all, as I said to a couple people at Board of Supervisors at a table, yes, Jesus was born in a manger. There was no room at the inn. Mary and Joseph were Jewish. That's why there was no room at the inn. Now, congratulations on your 100th anniversary. In fact, somebody else is 100 years old this year. Tim Tebow's Timaquana Country Club. Yes, you hear Tim always talk about Jesus, but if last Christmas Jesus had appeared in the dining room to get some Christmas dinner, Tim Tebow would have bodily thrown him from the dining room. Jesus is Jewish. 100 years, and they have no Yiddies and just one Shvasa member. At least you guys have a better track record than Tim Tebow's Timaquana Country Club. And remember, Phil Mickelson plays his golf there too, because he wants to be around just white Christian golfers, no Yiddies, and he'll tolerate one Shvasa. But that's why he was Tim Tebow's guest at the club, because that's the kind of people he wants to play his golf with. And he's a PGA member, just to let you know. Now, a while back, I was over here, and I was in the elevator, and there was something about an ice cream social. And where was it? Well, it was just 8 steps up from here. 8 steps up. Now, I know you guys wasted a lot of money on that Spring Fest, and the ice cream social could have been a lot better. I used to read about ice cream socials in the President Madison days. And what can I say? Our Miss Bloomingdale's assistant city manager, Paulina, she's no Dolly Madison. It was the sandwiches and the bars were served in this cart that obviously had no refrigeration. The sandwich was a melt. That's great if it's a Subway sandwich or a Burger King melt or something, or a Philly cheesesteak sandwich. But ice cream sandwiches are supposed to be served cold, frozen. And I would say there's probably a preponderance of the evidence that the bars were probably melted on the inside too. They need to do a better job. Now, I've officiated softball and once officiated with a volleyball official, and there's a mechanic for do-over. It's like this. And perhaps they should do over that ice cream social and get these things called freezers and put the ice cream in a freezer so it won't be melted. You could even buy it. I was over there at Fosselman's in Alhambra, and I asked, do you sell the ice cream? And they sell it in 3-gallon tubs for $45, serves 50 to 60 people. I mean, something like that. If you've got money for Springfest, I'm sure you've got money for freezers, and maybe you could even store them and bring them out to do over the ice cream social without melted ice cream. Now, we're not talking about a law firm from Orange County. We're not talking about a fire chief that lives in Riverside County, in Riverside. No, we're talking about 8 steps up from here in that room upstairs. That they just did a terrible job. What a failure. Now your whole time as assistant city manager won't be judged on that one failure, but they should do a better job. And I do want to thank the people on the Foothill Transit Board from West Covina who show up. I can't say that about everybody. There's a mayor who happens to be an assistant principal at a school. and Jessica and Kanya. And she has missed, 3 of them. She borders on being like a Rick Caruso. He was absent 40% of the time from his police commission. If last year, January through May, she was absent one more time, she would break the Caruso attendance record or lack of attendance. Somebody who works in the school system is an assistant principal playing hooky. The Foothill Transit gets lots of money from us taxpayers. The least they could do is show up to the meetings. And I'm glad for the ones who do show up. We need to get rid of the ones who don't and replace them with ones who will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greenspan.
Rosa Rios, followed by Jerry Padres, followed by Matthew Smith.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Rosa Rios, like my 3rd time here. This is my daughter. She was murdered on January 2nd, 2021, simply going to get something to eat. And at the beginning, I did ask myself, why? Why? But then the closer I got to God, the conversations I had with God, the conversations I had with Jesus, and the conversation I had with my mom. The why really didn't matter because there was not going to be a good enough answer for someone to tell me why my daughter was murdered for no fault of her own. But the why I do want from you guys, from Mr. Wu, my son-in-law reached out to me, completely deflated, broken all over again, back to square one. Did you guys hear about the dog who was tossed over a barbed wire in the city of Riverside? That dog had a press conference. There was a police officer advocating for him. They had media. Till this day, not one of our city representatives, not the police department, not one of you guys who took an oath to serve and protect the community, not one of you guys have stepped forward for my daughter. And I asked why. Is she not worthy of 5 minutes of your time? See, Gabby loved animals. She always had an animal, so she is happy that that dog got some justice. They caught the person who tossed him over the barbed wire. The police officer, they came and put us to prayer. He said something about justice here. I'm still waiting for justice for my daughter. It's been 2 years. This is my 2nd year without my daughter. I had to go Christmas, New Year's without my daughter. So I don't say Happy New Year anymore because there's nothing happy about it. She was murdered January 2nd. So every year, that's my New Year's. That's my Christmas. That's my reminder. And I get peace again when I go to sleep. I get peace. But when I wake up again, that tsunami comes all over again. Some days are good, and some days are really bad. But when I get a phone call from my son-in-law, he says, I give up, Rosie. No one's willing to do a press conference on behalf of my daughter. And I asked why. Why not? She donated her organs. You would have been proud of her. We are still residents of West Covina. She was going to become a nurse. So my question to you guys is why? Why isn't she worthy? Is she not a priority? She's not urgent enough? She's not worth the, I know there was a press release for the reward. Thank you for that. But some of us, like me, I wake up with the news. I go to sleep with the news. The news has a lot more powerful than social media. There's, some baby boomers. I don't even know if I'm a baby boomer, but I'm right up there where I wake up to the news. And I know you guys are going to reach a lot more residents if you get on the news. And it's going to reach a lot more surrounding communities, just like Kevin the dog did. And that's the way they captured the guy that threw him over the barbed wire. So I asked you guys, I know the police department completely turned their back on us. They said no. They didn't want any part of it. At least they were honest about it. They told them no. But I asked you guys for your support and help us bring justice to her. Even if they're not caught, but at least you did something for your community. Thank you.
Excuse me. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I received a text message from your son-in-law. Okay, and I have been request the city managers and police department to have a press conference. And my understanding, they did the conference on January 4th, right? City manager? January 3rd, right? Well, I think we have a press release. Okay, but I know you want to have a conference. I request the city manager, and the city manager, I send you the screenshot that city manager promised with the police to arrange at your convenience time. So,
willing and available.
Yeah, I think the city council has request. Okay, because we already provide a $50,000 reward. I'm 100%. It's devastating. I lost a loved one. Okay, and I accidentally step into her father-in-law's home. Okay, the husband's house. Okay, and on the Valley View. So I talked to them. So after that, I all the time try to provide the support for your family because I right away called our police department, the captain, and to approach you guys. But the point is, the city manager already promised us. I think, our other city council member is request city to have a press conference. We need to let the public know we provide $50,000, and then I think county provide $15,000, and your family $35,000, altogether $100,000. I think we can make a public request that maybe have an interest fee, $100,000, quite a lot of money. Hopefully, we can bring the justice to Gabby, and the more important thing, the closure to your family. We know it. We try to, but again, I might think the city manager, maybe he can answer, that he promised with the city, with our police department to have a joint press conference with your convenient time. So I think it will happen. I'm done. Thank you.
Let Councilwoman go ahead.
It's actually in reference to you again. We're sorry for your loss, but on our end, we have not stopped. I mean, there are things that we do behind the scenes. I know I personally have gotten in contact with our police department, asking certain questions, the same questions, that you've mentioned when you came to the last council meeting. And for that reason, I know this evening we have a presentation from the detective unit. And as the whole council, as well as residents, would like to know certain procedures, how things are put up. So this evening, the detective unit will not only just discuss everything, but regarding how the detective unit pulls through, but also in reference to why certain press conferences happen and everything. But they will be here.
I feel that if we were to make that announcement in media, it would bring a lot more focus and a lot more attention to her murder, because there really hasn't been, with the exception of I reaching out to a couple of news medias at the beginning, 6 months, 7 months after her murder. Nothing's been done after that.
And these are going to be the questions that we will be asking the detective unit this evening, along with any other questions that the council may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fields.
You have 27 seconds left. Jerry Patras, followed by Matthew Smith, followed by David Schwartz.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Patras. I'm a West Covina resident. Tonight I'm speaking on agenda item 3, campaign finance amendments. Political campaigns do have a negative aspect associated with them. That has always been the case, and it always will be. Most importantly, political campaigns reflect citizen right to free speech as guaranteed under the First Amendment. The Supreme Court upheld that principle in their Citizens United decision That decision prohibited imposing political campaign expenditure limits on independent expenditure committees. In my view, the Council's proposed contribution amendment is an effort to circumvent campaign expenditure restrictions on committees. When you limit resident ability to raise funds, you effectively limit expenditures. The person who is harmed by this change will be the first-time candidate who wishes to run for office. That person does not have the connections to raise the maximum donations that an incumbent council members have. Simply stated, a first-time candidate cannot effectively run against you. The people who are harmed by this change are the residents of West Covina who wish to support or oppose city ballot measures or sponsor an initiative or referendum in our city. The city has lots of money to sponsor ballot measures. West Covina residents cannot run effective campaigns supporting or opposing a measure when hurdles on fundraising are inappropriately used to stop grassroots campaigns. Within the context I have just summarized, I am asking for confirmation that, 1, the 650 contribution limit or any other dollar amount does not apply to a committee that makes contributions to city candidates. 2, the 650 contribution limit or any other dollar amount does not apply to a committee that makes independent expenditures to support or oppose city candidates. 3, the 650 contribution limit or any other dollar amount does not apply to a committee that makes contributions or independent expenditures to support or oppose city ballot measures. 4, the 650 contribution limit or any other dollar amount does not apply to a committee formed to sponsor, support, or oppose a recall of any elected official holding office in the city. 5, the 650 contribution limit or any other dollar amount does not apply to a committee formed to sponsor, support, or oppose a citizen initiated initiative or referendum in the city. If the answer is yes to any of these points, I strongly urge the Council to delay acting on this agenda item. Revisions to the amendment are needed. There is no urgency to pass this now. Thank you.
Matthew Smith, followed by David Schwartz, followed by Steve Bennett.
Good evening, Council. A brief information regarding San Gabriel Valley Senior Softball. We did have our Christmas dinner at Bunn Street, had about 60, 70 members come, had a nice evening. That was a fun event. We are looking forward to getting back to the sports complex up on the hill. We've been at Cameron Park for a little while, and we're looking forward to that. And on another note, San Gabriel Valley Senior Softball has a number of vets in it. When I first started, there was actually a team called the Vets, and almost all of them served in Vietnam. And they certainly, speaking on behalf of San Gabriel Valley Senior Softball, they certainly did not serve in Vietnam to have a Confederate flag shown during the flag salute tonight. So thank you for your support of San Gabriel Valley Senior Softball, and we will see you next month.
David Schwartz, followed by Steve Bennett, followed by John Shoemaker.
Thank you for letting me speak. I just want to go off track for about 10 seconds to say that because of freedom of speech, we let this ignorant person speak and talk to you people with the disrespect. His mouth is dirtier than a city toilet bowl with his profanity and his racist rants. And that's all I have to say with that. I mean, I could tell you it wasn't because of freedom of speech. I would have pummeled this guy.
Really?
Yes.
Order, please.
So now to go back on track here, I want to say that, first of all, I agree with Chris about what's going on Vincent Avenue and the 10 freeway. Every time it rains, there's problems, like Chris said, and they close it down. And it's huge congestion on Vincent Avenue. During Christmas time, it's just hard to get off the freeway. Most of us who live in the area, we have to get off on Azusa Avenue because we just can't get through. And also, there's a lot of potholes on West Covina Parkway right there at Vincent, and it's been there for a couple years. And I don't know what's going on with the city maintenance department, but they need to step up. There's problems with the sweeper. I know you guys use an outside company to sweep our streets, but they didn't show up at all this year. They were supposed to be here. They were supposed to come on the first and third Thursdays of the month. They haven't showed up yet. I called up city maintenance. I spoke with Chris, and I asked them, what's going on with the sweeper? Is it going to come on time, or is it going to be delayed a day because of the holiday of New Year's being celebrated on Monday? He said, no, they're going to be there on Thursday. They didn't show up Thursday. They didn't show up Friday, and they haven't shown up at all. We'll see if they show up this week. It'll be the third Thursday of the week. And so I think something has to be done with our sweeper for several reasons. One is I think we have to do a better job of letting our citizens know when sweeper day. It's too confusing to say the first and third Friday. Or Thursdays. People don't keep calendar like that. There should be some signs maybe put up saying, sweeper comes this day. I'm not saying that you should say, move your cars. I mean, I tell all my neighbors, we all pull our cars off the street. I don't think we need to put that, but I think we do need to put some kind of signs up for it or something. And we have to think about who you guys are using as the company for the sweepers, because they probably figure out when they do the contract with you guys how many linear miles of West Covina they sweep. And so their vehicle has to go a certain speed to do the job. But I see this guy racing down the street, and instead of picking up the trash, it gets smeared across the street. So they need to be talked to. And I think that's probably Chris's job in city maintenance. And I also think that we need to be better prepared during storms. That city maintenance has to be out there to clean up streets in these storms that we have. Thank God that West Covina doesn't have many problems. But the palm trees on Lark Allen and throughout our city, the palm branches come down and they're in the middle of the street and people have to go around it. I've seen almost people get into accidents trying to avoid it. And trash with the winds that are going are in the street, and we need city maintenance to patrol during storms. And I think that's about it. I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Bennett, followed by John Shoemaker, followed by Jim Grivich.
Happy New Year, Madam Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Dave Carmani. Pleasure to see you. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Couple things. First of all, speaking for the lady who lost her daughter, I don't wish anyone to lose a child. That's got to be the most heart-wrenching thing, and I don't ever want to go through it. I hope none of us go through it. I feel for her. So, I was thinking about what she said about press conferences, and I heard some of your comments. And, a little over 10 years ago, the councils before you guys, we had a press conference to announce a state audit, but we're not having a press conference to find a murderer. I happen to agree with her that you guys can do more. And I know you're probably doing stuff behind the scenes. I'm not saying you're not, but more needs to happen, because that's just absolutely the most gut-wrenching thing. My mom lost 2 babies after birth, and I don't know how she did it. So I'm just going to speak to that. To the gentleman who was here before me on the street sweeping, mine's every other Tuesday, I think, or every Tuesday or once a month, or I don't know. I see him once a month if I'm lucky. So I don't think it's so much the street sweeper company that's the issue. You guys have modified their contract, changed their contract, adjusted their contract, tried to find a new person to do street sweeping. I don't know that anyone really knows what their contract is this day, and I don't even know if they know. So I don't blame the street sweeping company. I blame the lack of clarity in their service. And so to answer his question, at one point we were getting it done every week. This council or previous council, because I know some of you weren't here, voted to change that. There's been all kinds of changes and amendments to that contract. I think we need, if I was on there, I would ask for a staff report on what we actually are supposed to be getting and get that out. And I think that would be something that you guys should do for the residents. For what I'm actually here tonight, I'm here on item number 3, which is campaign finance. And I listened to what Ms. Patra said a little while ago, and I agree with her. This should not be affecting political action committees. So just so everyone understands, a candidate-controlled committee is still a political action committee, and then there's an independent expenditure committee, which is one that's not controlled by a candidate. So there's 2 types. We've had a contribution limit on candidate-controlled committees for a long time, but now you're trying to implement one on a political action committee in the guise of, we want to make this more transparent, that we want to limit big dollar donations. The reality is, you know, Mr. Wu, you mentioned at the council meeting you discussed and talked about attack mailers on you and that they were done by, you know, various people or various PACs. And that's not going to stop that because they can spend as much as they want. So they can spend anything that they have. And in the situation of police and fire unions here have their own PACs, they're already established, and all their members give money to that. And the Teamsters Union, which also attacked you, also has members that donate to that. They're all going to be under $650. You're not going to touch that. And they can spend anything they want out of that PAC to attack you. So your idea to limit that can only be assumed that you're going after one particular resident who started his own PAC and attacked you. So I don't know if this should be called the anti-John Shoemaker PAC or what, but that's kind of the approach you took. I want to read a couple things real quick before we get any further in. I had to laugh because in the actual measure on page 1, it states that it's a necessity to combat corruption and the appearance of corruption in the city election process. Okay, I get that. The problem that you have with that is when the largest spenders in the city, which are the 2 employee unions and Teamsters, have an endless supply of members supplying them money, you're not stopping that. Okay, that's the honest answer from that. I do want to point out something else. There are 3 things listed here that are all part of the FPPC, and that's in section 2401 on page number 5. And it talks about anything over $100, campaign contribution reporting and all of that. That's all governed by the Fair Political Practices Commission in California. We don't need to reiterate in the actual ordinance. But the really important thing that I want to point out is that you're asking for someone to notify the city clerk within 24 hours of any expenditure over $1,000. And you want them to supply a sample of that mailer as well. Well, that's outside of the Fair Political Practices Act. They don't require that. They require it in a 460 form, which is filed semi-annually or 3 times during an election. You all know this. You've all ran for your campaigns, so you understand the thing. The really interesting thing, and I'm going to try to finish up in 30 seconds, I'm going to read this, is the weaponizing of the city attorney. So enforcement, any person who believes in a violation in this article has occurred may file a complaint with the city attorney and he shall investigate. The city attorney and any registered voter may also file a civil action. Possible punishments and penalties, $1,000 fine or 3 times the violation amount. It will be classified as a misdemeanor. You're going to make people who violate this by accident a criminal. And then on top of that, you're going to allow a resident or any of you or the city attorney to go ahead and sue them civilly.
Thank you
for that option.
Thank you.
That is absolutely
The next speaker is John Shoemaker, followed by Jim Grivich, followed by Bill Robinson.
Years ago, West Covina Council, at the urging of Roger Hernandez, passed what I referred to, and it was a subheadline in the Tribune, the Saddam Hussein Freedom of Information Act, because it was cutting back on how much people could speak. This, now that I hear there's possible criminal aspects to criticizing Tony Wu, what is this? The Vladimir Putin Enemies Corruption Act? You know, Madera down in Venezuela is probably going, wow, that's a good one. I need to do that. You know, Joseph Stalin, at least yet, we're not being sent off to re-education camps. Re-education camps. You know, you want to stop corruption? Well, I wonder why people in Monterey Park and Montebello and all over Southern California and different states care about who's running for city council in West Covina. They're not even friends. I can understand you have friends, you know, all over who want to donate, but that's okay. You know, it's just amazing how Tony Wu at a meeting asked, I believe it was a city attorney, if criticizing him, could the DA step in and prosecute it as hate speech? I believe he was told no. So what does he do? Let's come up with a rule that will prosecute people who violate some little administrative procedure. Prosecute them. 6 months in jail. 6 months in jail because Mr. Thinskin up here can't take it. You know? It was funny. When you were at the Veterans Day, you announced that you were a veteran. What military? Because it sure the hell wasn't the United States military if you want to stop people from speaking who criticize you. You know, it's just amazing how any of the four of you could vote for this, criminalizing free speech. You know, there was a part of it, though, that I thought was kind of interesting, is going through some of the things that you had to put on. You put something on the internet, a cartoon or something. You're going to tell me that Bill Elliott, every time he puts out a meme, is going to have to say whether it was political or not and get something put in a report on how much he spent and say, you know, all this verbiage that you want part of it? Hell, maybe I'm talking myself into voting for it. You'd shut him the hell up. You know, you're trying to stop criticism. Same as when you run around asking people where I got the money from. Hey, Tony, I don't need to drive a Hummer or a big expensive car for people to admire me or something. I really don't care about that. You know? But there is one thing that's kind of nice about this, is you can't stop candidates from spending their money. So tonight, I'm putting in my 501, announcing that I'm running for city council in District 3 in 2024. Can't stop me from spending my money, as I point out to the residents and voters in District 3. You know, the mayor, how she says I'm Hispanic, but I don't think like them. And how she supports her husband wanting to bring more white families into West Covina. Bill Elliott said Shoemaker can never get elected in the city. That might be true. And if that's the case, this is what's going to happen. I get elected, you're going to have to put up with me for 2 years on the city council. I don't get elected, I'm going to buy a house in District 5, and you're going to have to put up with me as a candidate in District 5, Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker.
Jim Grivich, followed by Bill Robinson.
As you know, I haven't been around a lot recently. I have a sick wife to take care of, but this one, item number 3 on the agenda, I felt was important enough that I needed to be here. I'm asking you to table this item. mostly for ethical reasons. And I'm going to start with your ordinance itself. The second whereas says, California Government Code Section 85702.5 permits the city by ordinance to impose a campaign contribution limit. And now I'm going to read you that particular government code section. A city may impose a limit on contributions to a candidate. No other limitations are allowed by the state law. This ordinance is deceptive. It's not true. It's not legal. I am stating to this council that it's not ethical. There's another ethics issue with this, and I would refer to it as equal protection of the laws. There's one area where the city council is not limiting expenditures, and it was just pointed out by my predecessor. There's no limitation for candidates. Candidates can spend as much money as they want. So we have to form candidate committees now. Just like was said, it's interesting, I was going to say the same thing for a completely different reason. So instead of being an independent expenditure committee, we have to be a candidate committee so that we can spend up and raise all the money we want. I just don't understand why there would be this deception and dishonesty in this measure. I've been coming to the council meetings for quite a long time, and I've actually never seen anything quite like this. And there's a personal issue here. You probably know that I spent quite a bit of my own money, $4,000 to be precise, to defeat a tax increase measure. And that was as an independent committee. And yet this would outlaw me doing that. Why in the world would you want to stop a resident of this city to fight a tax increase? Why? There was allusions to other countries in this world that don't believe in free speech, don't believe basically in the tenets of our country, and I've seen that at the national level. Some people talking like that too. Let's get rid of the amendments. Something you may not know about me: I was a political science instructor for 13 years. And that was my favorite speech about how wonderful the First Amendment was. I gave three whole classes on the First Amendment. If we lose the First Amendment in this country, we've lost it all. This country's no better than anything else. You can't, and I'm imploring you not to limit our ability to, yes, criticize, or at least ask for a new council member. This last election, the Political Action Committee I'm a member of did support one of the council members. It's the first time we've done that. And I think it should be our right to do that. Isn't that what free speech is all about? Political free speech. I can't think of anything more important in this country. And I'm asking you to table it. First, I think it's illegal. And second, I also think it's wrong. Ethically wrong. Immoral. I do think that there's possibly some things that can be done with the way contributions are handled because of corruption issues. And that's why the state was very specific when they say limit it to a candidate, because that's corruption when a wealthy person buys a candidate's vote.
Thank you.
Bill Robinson.
criminalizing free speech, the First Amendment, that isn't what I came to talk to you tonight about. In fact, nobody's going to understand what I'm going to say for the next 5 minutes, but here goes. Number 2 and number 4 on council's, there's 2 phony emergencies on tonight's meeting agenda. First, the rain. Rain is not an emergency. Rain is a natural phenomenon, a blessing from heaven because it does mitigate California's fading drought emergency. Legally, an emergency can only last 90 days and gives an administrator critical instant power to act. These powers are temporary unless emergency status is ratified by a state legislature or you're the local legislature. Our residents seem to prefer martial law and Field Marshal Gavin Newsom diktats and removal of our natural freedoms. The physicians are feeling they can't speak freely anymore. So instead of freedom, Sig Heil, Marshal Gavin Newsom. But I have a dream. My dream includes the phrase, the land of the free and the home of the brave. This has become an empty phrase in Newsom's Hotel California. My second topic tonight, nobody will know what I'm talking about. It's called the Trusted News Initiative Cartel, a scheme among large media outlets to control the narrative on both COVID and presidential elections across the globe. This is a censorship operation run by Pfizer, which is the 47th president of the United States. Pfizer. You can just call me ignorant. But I'm bringing good news from Texas. Texas, where freedom is still highly valued together with the U.S. Constitution, where football and personalities like Damar Hamlin are idolized. A suit filed a week ago in the U.S. District Court for Northern Texas Amarillo Division. The Sherman antitrust based lawsuit alleges these outlets partnered with several big tech firms to collectively censor online news, including stories about COVID-19 and the 2020 U.S. presidential election that were aligned with official narratives regarding those issues. Plaintiffs in the lawsuit include Bobby Kennedy, Creative Destruction Media. These are Dr. Joseph McCullough, many others, all internet-based. Some in West Covina, probably everyone in West Covina is unaware of the TNI, the Trusted News Initiative, a shadowy, unholy alliance media deal, which is probably fraudulent, called the Trusted Initiative. That's a media syndicate of legacy news agencies, along with Google and Twitter. You ever heard of Google and Twitter? Their cover story says it rebuilds trust and tackles disinformation challenges, a partnership that includes organizations such as First Draft, Google, YouTube, Reuters, AP, Meta, the Washington Post. I'm talking about big-time, societal-wide censorship, a big blackout. That's why nobody in this room knows what I'm talking about. TNI, the only forum worldwide designed to take on disinformation in real time. TNI partners include Associated Press, Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. It goes on and on. Alternative news views describe TNI partners as a propaganda cartel designed to thrust official government narratives down the throats of ignorant and unquestioning masses that demand totalitarian conformity and obedience, not the First Amendment. Not the First Amendment. the constitutional freedoms, including lively science, debate.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Hey, give me another minute. I'm just warming.
We're moving on.
We have no further speakers, Mayor.
Thank you.
The First Amendment is trash, and
we're done, Mr. Robinson. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, City Manager, could you please respond to the public comments? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council, members of the public. I'll try to briefly respond to the speakers. Just beginning to say thank you all for coming out tonight. I always appreciate people taking the time to do it. It always gives us a good pulse on what's happening. Mr. Herman talked about the First Amendment. I think his speech, while perhaps offensive to some, is protected by the First Amendment, and we respect that and give him his time every time. And tonight he used it. Chris Miller, thank you. I accept your offer of assistance. I don't have your contact information in my Outlook, but if you could give it to the clerk, I'll call you tomorrow and we'll take you up on your offer for assistance with those pumps. Thank you, sir. Mr. Greenspan also spoke, but didn't have anything that I heard related to city business, but I will, again, thank him for being here. Rosa Rios, Council, she and I have an appointment tomorrow afternoon. I was out of town all last week, but she and I are going to be meeting tomorrow afternoon to follow up on the specifics of some of the issues that she raised with you, and those will include dissemination of that press release and press conferences and ways that the city is working on that business that she here spoke, and we all grieve over the loss of her daughter. We had 4 speakers tonight talk about the PAC ordinance. Jerry Poitras, Steve Bennett, John Shoemaker, and Jim Gerbich. It's on your agenda tonight as ordinance second reading. It does 2 things. It increases the maximum contribution limit to $650, and it provides that committees are subject to the contribution limit. It advances the law or changes the law that's now in effect. I would recommend you adopt it tonight, and if you wish us to study further amendments, you could give that direction under council requests at the end of this meeting or any meeting. Matthew Smith is our softball representative. He and I also have some follow-ups over field use. We want to get that group back up to the sportsplex. We're in a moment now of, we call it use opportunity, which is a euphemism meaning field rest. We have to schedule that in. We had a lot of rain damage up there as well, but we're going to be back up there in the spring and early spring. I'm not going to say the word February out loud, but I am willing to commit to March, and we'll get them up there and they can take advantage of those beautiful fields in their restored condition. Mr. Schwartz correctly identified a number of storm-related damages. We've been chasing roofs, we've been chasing pumps, we've been chasing leaking roofs. I've shared with the council separately some really bad situations at some of our city buildings, and we're going to work on some emergency contracts to address those. It's been really overwhelming, and I think that, to answer the question as to what the city is doing about it, speaks to the agenda item number 4, which is a resolution declaring a winter storm emergency here. It enables us to avail ourselves of state and federal grants in aid. When we suffer damages, when the damages exceed our capacity to respond, it opens up the Treasury and enables us to seek reimbursement. We had some serious incidents. The pumps was mentioned. We also had some city trees, which came down. One of them destroyed a house, and it's our tree and so our problem, but we're following up on every single one of those and know we have more work to do. Mr. Robinson talked about the 2 emergency resolutions. The COVID one, as was mentioned at the last meeting, I think the governor's going to wind that up, and when he does, we'll close ours down here as well. And the winter storm one is the most recent one. There's been some very unusual weather, and other towns have been far worse hit than us. We've been in mutual aid response mode to assist with some of that in other towns that have it worse than we do. But I recommend that as an agenda approval tonight on your consent calendar so that we could capture those state and federal monies. I think that's all I have this evening. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Mr. Wu.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Okay, I think the resident talking about another 2 issue, pothole. Okay, all the places, and maybe we can have an app so he can report where this is that, or we have our superintendent driving around, make sure identify, or our co-enforcement. Okay, we have a 13 of them. They should identify the problem. We have this rain damage. We should have a lot of pothole, but we need to fix it right away. Okay, second thing regarding street sweeper, maybe you can answer, and you didn't answer about street sweeper. Okay, and we have a major issue. Okay, about the performance. Do we have a termination clause if they don't perform?
Through the chair, thank you, Councilman Wu. The council is aware, and I would like for the public to also be aware, that the city council has directed that I return to them with a report about street sweeping generally. It'll address several issues related to that. We want to get in compliance as a best management practice with the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System rules, the NPDES rules, because sweeping the streets is the one best management practice we have. We're going to be coming forward with a report that recommends weekly street sweeping citywide, the posting of the city with signs. It's going to come at a cost. It could be $600,000 or more. And then also the cost of running the streets to sweep them correctly at so much a curb mile. The current arrangement doesn't provide for weekly sweeping, and we're going to have to look at alternatives in the provision of that service as well. We do have an app to report damages with trees and with potholes. Our superintendents do run the streets. They're out every morning during the storm, starting at about 5 a.m. I got home from having been out of the city and the state on Saturday night, literally at 10 o'clock, and was really proud to see my crew in a pickup truck at Citrus when I got off the freeway to head home. I know that they're out there to the extent of their capacity, but it has been overwhelming, and we'll continue to stay on it and keep those crews chasing storm damages.
Yeah, thank you, Manager. I think he's asking about the performance, okay, that the sweeper didn't show up, okay, and how our city have a mechanism to chase about the performance, because we pay them top dollar. So if they show up, if they don't show up, okay, if they don't show up, when they will show up. So at least we have somebody, who is the person who was supervised to see the performance of our subcontractor to perform. Because I think that's the important thing. And if they don't perform, do we have a termination clause? Okay, to make sure that if they don't do it, then we can terminate them.
Through the chair, yes, the contract does have a termination clause, and we are in conversation with them about some performance issues right now.
Madam Mayor?
Councilman Countess, go ahead.
By way of specific follow-up to the city manager, with the various identified items with regard to street cleanup and so forth, can you please report back to the council with regard to the resolution of those matters, just so that way the public can see that those specific concerns have been addressed?
Certainly, yes.
Thank you. I'm looking through our app right now to see if there's anything that we can use to report things like that, and I don't see anything. So, yeah, it would be nice to get a report regarding the street sweepers. And I would encourage everyone to use our West Covina app to report any potholes or things like of that nature, and trees and so on. I'm always doing that, and it really works well. I always get a response from maintenance. So I would encourage everyone to use that app. Thank you. Mr. City Manager, can you give us a report?
Thank you, Mayor and Council, members of the public. I'd like to just provide a very brief City Manager's report and update. First item I wanted to mention was we had seen some changes in the law with respect to how concealed carry licenses and permits are considered and issued. Up until this point, the sheriff has been handling those for all 88 cities in the county. The sheriff's office made a decision they were only going to do that for their contract cities, shifting to the independent cities a need to have a process by which those applications could be reviewed and considered. We've put in place on a service bureau basis a portal for that. It's available on our police department webpage as of today. If you go to that webpage and type in CCW, that permit process is on that police department webpage, and people can apply for those permits directly for ultimate review and consideration by the chief of police. This next slide, addressing facility issues due to the rain, I talked about this just briefly. This is a current snapshot I had shared with the council members earlier about some leaks at the Public Works Yard building. Not acceptable to have our employees working in this condition. I got a roofer out there right away. We had some 50 leaks in that roof and a clogged drain, but we're going to need to address these situations immediately. The rest of our roofs seem to do much better in this storm than in some previous storms. City Hall's in good shape. The community center's in good shape. The senior center's in good shape. We had some pinhole type leaks at a couple of the fire stations and some problems with the pump at Fire Station 3 on the roof. But our number one problem in terms of this most recent storm was at our city works yard, and we've got to get that fixed right away. I might be issuing an emergency contract to get that done. Next slide. Wanted to mention that we have had our fire crew deployed in the Mendocino burn scar area. Our crew is shown here working on a flooded road and evaluating a hillside which was in danger of failure. On the right there is a picture of a house that was flooded, and our crews did some structure search and a structural evaluation. So once again in this crisis, as with some previous crises, we are providing assistance to others on a mutual aid basis, and I'm proud of that. Next slide. Wanted to make mention that our home buyer assistance program is now available. This is a housing program the city has, which is designed to assist first-time home buyers in purchasing a home. It's available to all first-time home buyers, preference being given to existing West Covina residents and low and moderate income individuals and families. That there are several housing developments that are offering this housing assistance program. The Asteria by Lennar, which is available now, and then 3 more on the horizon: Vincent Place by Meritage, West Cameron by Meritage, and the Grove at Merced. And people can visit our housing page on our city website if they want to get some specifics as first-time home buyers and need some help trying to purchase a home. I'd like for people to know about that and take advantage of it if they can. Next slide. There's a couple of online surveys which are underway. I mentioned at the last meeting our budget survey. We want to get people's early input and thought. And there's also a survey available online now of a health assessment, which will relate to a broader context of a community health needs assessment. Next slide. We're going to have a community meeting on Tuesday, January 31st in these chambers as part of our budget process. We've done this in prior fiscal years. I'm going to be here that night, and this is a community conversation. It's not a presentation, but it's a listening post and an opportunity for us to hear from residents as to what they would like to see in the coming fiscal year budget. It's a major policy document. But I'm going to be here in this chambers, and I hope we get some people to come. In the past, we've got some pretty good comments and suggestions, and so I'd like for people to be welcome to be here at 6 o'clock on the 31st. Next slide. We're recruiting for volunteers, people that might have an interest in serving on commissions and committees. Under state law, the Maddie Required Notice Act, we are to make available, announce the availability of these positions. The Senior and Community Services Commission, the Human Resources Commission, the Audit Committee, people that are interested in applying. These are not paid positions; these are volunteer posts, at least for now. Should go onto our website and just submit their name, address, serial number, etc., and they can be considered for these volunteer posts. And then lastly, I just wanted to remind the community that we're going to have a centennial celebration and dinner Thursday, February the 16th from 6 to 8 p.m. up at the Sportsplex. And that'll kick off a weekend of our Centennial Spring Festival. But we really hope people will consider coming to the Sportsplex for a Centennial celebration and dinner. We've had some great assistance from the Historical Society. It's kind of a moment for us to have been a city for 100 years. I think that's all I've got this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a few comments. I know this week we all received an email regarding some of the festivals that we hold as a city and we partner with. And I just wanted a response on the record for the public to hear. One of the first events we had was during Filipino American Month, and it was at the Sportsplex. And that celebration we had up there, those types of events, really, it's a way for us to enter the homes of our neighbors, right? I remember being at that event, seeing Councilwoman Lopez Viado, being around all those families, eating the food, talking about the desserts. I think about Lunar New Year, which is coming up, and Councilman Wu, feeding the dragon and giving me my red envelope, which I still carry, and again, when that event happened, I can see into Councilman Wu's house, right? I can see what it would have been like, right, as one of his children to receive the red envelope. I think of Nowruz, which is a Persian New Year. We have a similar thing, right? And so it creates that connection within community. And thinking about, the Pride event that will come out in June. And again, it's this way to open up our doors, right? To get to know our neighbors, to see how our neighbors relate to each other, how they celebrate culture, right? And how we can connect with this different food and just to see those relationships that we normally can't see. And so, these events are not to divide community, right? These events are to give us all a look inside each other's homes. It's a welcoming. Everyone is invited. Everyone gets to sit and enjoy and really just see how we all love each other. And again, to the resident who emailed about our festivals, that's the importance of them. I think we all are looking forward to enjoying the 100th anniversary, connecting as West Covina residents, and just really being community, right? And like I said, we don't get a chance to go into each other's homes, but this is a way for us to do it. Again, I thank you for all the staff, for all the events you put, from the holiday events to the Halloween events, to this wonderful 4 days that we're about to have, and those future events. And they are, this is what we do, right? This is, as a city government, as a municipality, we're to create and help facilitate community. And I'm proud the way we've done it. I'm proud that we're recognizing our different neighbors, and we're sharing in these moments together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai. Okay, now we're going to move on to our consent calendar. And we have 10 items. Is there anyone that would like to pull any item? Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai?
Yes, I'd like to pull item number 3.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, 5, 7, and 9.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of 3, 5, 7, and 9?
So move.
Second? I'll second it. I'll second it.
Mayor, I have a motion by Councilman Wu and a second by Mayor Diaz to approve the consent calendar items, with the exception of item number 3, consideration of an ordinance amending Article 8 of Chapter 2 of the West Covina Municipal Code relating to campaign finance regulations. Item number 5, consideration of professional services agreement for building and safety services with TransTech. Item number 7, consideration of annual comprehensive financial report and other related reports for the year end June 30, 2022. And item number 9, consideration of a resolution amending the fiscal year 2022-2023 budgets.
Okay.
Councilman Contos?
Aye.
Councilman Wu?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai?
Aye.
Mayor Diaz?
Aye.
Items passed 5-0.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem? Tabatabai, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think I do have some concerns with the item, and so when it comes to expenditures, so from my understanding, right, there's no cap on any type of expenditure, right?
Right. Madam Mayor, let me give you a really brief staff report here. What this changed was the contribution amount from, I believe, what was around 6 something with CPI we had before. It's 650 CPI remains, and it changed the contribution not just to a candidate, to a committee. That is all. That is it. That's all this amendment changed. It didn't change anything to the city attorney enforcement, anything to the recitals. Everything else has existed and has been there. So the brief staff report is the 650 plus the CPI and the committee. We especially did not touch, and was not directed to touch, independent expenditures, because as we all know, as your citizens came up here and so astutely said, you can't put limits on free speech, and that's an independent expenditure. We did not touch that. We only addressed the 650 and to the committee. And these committees file with the state. They file with our city clerk. She can add if she wants. And same with independent expenditures. They file with the city clerk within that time limit. That's all that is changed here.
So I guess my question is, so as a candidate, right, so I can loan my campaign, Rick Caruso, right, loaned his campaign $104 million.
That's correct. So the definition of contribution, that's a good point. The definition of contribution does not include a loan. So a loan to yourself, a committee could loan to itself, a candidate could loan to themselves.
Right. So a committee, right, so we're trying to say, right, we don't want, right, this corruption. We don't want this hidden donor to donate $1 million to a committee. But that donor can just loan the committee $1 million, and it would pretty much say
it doesn't. This does not address loans, and this is kind of follows what the state does. The state does not address loans. It's different statutes that govern that. That's correct.
So whatever problem we were attempting to solve by adding this, it doesn't necessarily do that.
I don't know what problem we're attempting to resolve. Some cities have done this. It's been on books in other cities. There's been recent situations where outside money has come in. I think we saw it up in Seattle with Amazon coming in with a lot of money and trying to buy elections. And so cities then, to keep local control, and like West Covina having a district, are going to say, raise your money here, and they're okay to limit it to $650. I don't know what this was trying to fix. Independent expenditures was not touched. So I can't answer that.
Right. So in your Amazon example, if Amazon wanted to just create a committee and loan that committee $1 million, we really have no way of stopping that.
Yeah, and this doesn't address super PACs, which I probably was the situation up there. Super PACs are created differently. They can fund themselves differently. They're not providing money at the direction of anyone. It's their own committee, and they're going to pay. They're going to do what they want to do with their own money, and there is no limit to that. So this does not address that. What this does address is a $650 amount, and then the how that committee raises the money. But again, a loan is not in that definition, so they can loan themselves money just as any candidate up there on the dais can loan themselves money.
Okay.
That's it.
I was just going to say I don't have a problem with this because as a new candidate, when we're only limited to $650, donors could say, well, I would like to donate more, and then you could circumvent that and say, okay, just donate to that and go. And and it's going to be the same thing. So if we're limited, then as when we have to counterattack or anything, that when they put all these mailers out, it almost puts that fair playing field. Not only that, as loans, personally, we don't want to take out loans. So, I mean, who wants to take $1 million loan and then pay that, especially if you lose or anything like that? But I don't have a problem with this.
Mr. City Attorney, I have a couple questions. Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Cantus.
Thank you. And I apologize in advance because I'm new and this may be really obvious. But just to follow up on a resident remark earlier regarding the second whereas, is it true that the governing statute only applies to limitations of contributions to candidates? And or is it that we have the authority to also limit contributions to PACs?
Yes, we have that authority. The state does it. So a new bill just came out recently that said, hey, cities, you guys put a limitation on your campaign contributions by individuals and by PACs and whomever by a certain date. And if you don't do it, we're going to default, and it's going to be $4,900. So cities, West Covina already had a limit. I think it was 500 way back when. They already had that on their books. Other cities rushed and they put limits on it. Other cities said we're not going to put any limit on it, and so they can go above and beyond the 4,900. And then cities that didn't do anything will just default to the state. So for more local control and in the minds of previous council before you, or maybe Councilmember Wu was already on there, they said we want more local control. We are going to limit those contribution limits to 500 way back when.
Okay, and my next question is in support of pushing for efforts to equalize the playing field. To what extent would this proposed change in our ordinance have an impact on entities who have large budgets still being able to amplify that message? And how does that compare with individual residents who do not have the resources to compete in terms of the messaging? Because of wouldn't that be leading to an unequal result because of having a more adverse impact on individual residents or smaller PACs in comparison to larger PACs?
Man, these are tough questions. Wow. I understand. So some associations or some committees will be able to raise money easier than an individual could. You would know better. You knock on doors, you send out whatever saying, can I have some money? $199, $250, $650, the maximum amount. A committee could maybe, or an association could go to their members and get individuals to contribute that way, which is fine, and that's typically what they do. Mm-hmm. And again, depends on how this committee, this PAC is formed. If it's formed in a different manner and it's not controlled by a candidate or a measure, and they're independent, they can have their treasurer write checks to this PAC, and they can spend it however. The limitations come when they're not a super PAC and they're raising money in a different manner, and then they can spend it however they want to. So leveling the playing field, that's a tough question. I don't know what it will do. Maybe less money will be spent on a campaign here, and for the size of this city and the size of your districts, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. That's a difficult question to answer, but this applies to all committees, depending on how they're formed, other than super PACs, of course.
But if there are independent expenditure committees, one having sizable amounts of money, let's say six-figure amounts, and there's smaller independent expenditure committees, how is it that the smaller ones can also have an opportunity to amplify their message with whatever they say in comparison to those who already have the resources to be able to amplify their own message? Is it possible that also impacts speech indirectly, even however unintended?
No, and so the Citizens United case, the court looked at this, and the court said, we can't limit how you want to spend your money because that's considered free speech. That's what you want to do. The courts looked at it under which is called strict scrutiny, and I think you understand that. The courts did not and will not and has not, as far as I know, looked at how you raise your money. That's not considered speech in any manner. It's if you're going to raise money, give yourself a loan, or if you're going to knock on every door and get some money, that's your prerogative. That's how you do it. But the courts don't look at that and say limiting that is some way an infringement on free speech.
Right. I'm not referring, I apologize for not being clear. I'm not referring to the expenditure of money, but the raising of money. So if there are small PACs that are trying to raise money and they're smaller by nature because they're resident controlled PACs, how can they compete with larger entities who are PACs who may be filed in this city, who have higher resources, and what would be the impact of on smaller PACs under this proposed ordinance?
All PACs, they're all governed by the 650. They can only get 650 no matter what they do, unless they have money in their coffers already. That's hard to say how a large PAC already has that in their coffers, or I don't know. But they are all limited to the 650 when they go knock on doors and try to raise money. So it is attempting to probably level the playing field. But then again, this does not touch the expenditure of it.
Right. I understand that. I'm just trying to figure this out. And also, again, I'm new with this. Has there been an analysis on looking at possible arguments both in support of this ordinance and against, so that way we as a council can weigh the different possibilities with possible arguments proposed by both sides in order to be able to see what the different arguments are in anticipation of any possible future litigation action? And I understand as a city we are always subject to litigation, but also it's a matter of being preventative to write an ordinance in a way that minimizes those possibilities, such that if we were to be sued, there would have been the proper legal analysis, so that if we were sued, we could say, yeah, well, we've already analyzed this. Here's what we've said.
Yes. Madam Mayor, yes, we looked at the case law on independent expenditures, that side of it, and we saw, okay, we're not limiting that. And the request was only on raising funds, and then the limit was the 650. That was it, and there was nothing out there, anything saying that that's a violation of your First Amendment.
Right, that's in expenditures, but the raising of money is what I'm referring to. Right. Is there an analysis?
We looked at that and nothing, and we looked at other cities that did it, and they're on the books. If something does happen, then we just amend our ordinance and remove it if that's the case.
So would it be possible, in light of the difficulty, and I understand in answering this, that if this were to be tabled in order to do a proper analysis, or is it that the count? I mean, I guess it's up for a motion, but I mean, I am really strongly in support of anti-corruption and the way, and I was personally attacked by other individuals, and I signed up for it. It's politics. But at the same time, I also want to make sure that residents have an equal opportunity to have a say in comparison to larger entities who have a lot of resources.
This is second reading. I believe these are very minor amendments to this to the campaign ordinance. I don't see why it would need to be tabled. It's up to the body, of course. The council could ask staff to take a comprehensive look at the entire ordinance. That could happen if the body wants that. But this is a minor amendment that I do not believe it needs to be tabled. But it's up to the body, of course.
Councilman Wu.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, quick question, because a couple of residents criticize that I'm trying to censor the free speech. Okay, regarding criminal prosecution, I don't know where it's coming from. So, would you please explain what kind of change, what is about criminal?
Okay, yeah,
I have no idea anything about that. So, would you please?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, again, my brief staff report was what this change was: a 650, and then the contribution to the committee. That was it. Everything else that was commented on existed prior. It's been in the ordinance. I don't know.
My understanding is just try to have an equal playing field, that candidate or PAC all can to get sponsorship. They get funding from 650 and then report to FPPC who donate this money. So at least we know what this money. So we don't have a large sums of money coming in from Amazon or from Teamster or from any of the PAC. But But okay, some resident talking about he raised a $4,000 want to stop. He can still do the same thing.
Yes,
right?
he can. Again, loans are not in the
He
definition.
can still doing the $4,000 loan to himself, and still so nothing changed.
No, nothing.
So
It's a minor change.
We didn't restrict anybody's right.
Agree.
Right? Am I right?
You're right. Agree.
How about prosecution? I don't know anything about
That existed. That's been in there. Typically, in all municipal codes, in your administration or your section 1, in the very.
So this is a typical.
It's in there. It's in there.
And therefore,
it's reemphasized in the campaign ordinance where, and I've had a few times I've had to investigate.
I didn't request any prosecution based on what the resident criticize. I want to censor people criticize me. I never want. I have no problem people to criticize me at all. It's a freedom of speech.
And the elections official, Lisa, is very diligent. She gets all the forms filed. She sees what was filed on time, if not on time, and it has all the contributions.
Correct. Okay. The reason last time I request to city to look into, we have a first reading, is a lot of cities doing the limitation about the donation, so we don't have big money, and like before, $25,000 to one candidate, 2 or 3 donors, they already have all the money to bid for any people's grassroots. Okay, so everybody equal, playing field, and the same thing. Bowen Park, just finished, have their election. Over 77% of resident vote want to restrict the $750 for candidate and PAC. So basically, this is all the city already adopt this ordinance.
Yes, there's a number of cities that are already doing this. Yeah.
So we didn't do any special, right?
No. There's some that even have, I think, $250. There's lower amounts. Yeah, it's common. I think, and it seems
it's
like
very common.
It's becoming. I think it'll become more common as well.
Yeah, because this is a very small election, local election. So it's only care about our local issue about the street, about the safety. Right. So it's no ideology. So we don't understand why so much money coming to the city, doing that thing. But again, I just want to emphasize, any people want to do the PAC and donate to themselves, they can still do it.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we didn't change anything. We only changing the PAC, the donation to them, $650.
It was a minor amendment. Everything else already is.
So in that way, I'm going to move the motion to approve.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Yes. I have a motion by Councilman Wu and a second by Councilwoman Lopez Viado. Councilman Contos?
Present.
No. Yes or no?
Present.
He can abstain.
You can abstain. Okay, which one you want? Huh?
It's an abstain. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
It's okay.
Ignore it. Okay.
Councilman Wu?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai?
No.
Mayor Diaz?
Yes.
Item passes. 3 in favor, 1 abstain, 1 no. Excuse me, I also need to read the title of the ordinance into the record. Ordinance number 2510, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of West Covina, California, amending Article 8 of Chapter 2 of the West Covina Municipal Code relating to the campaign finance regulations. Thank you.
Councilman Cantos, number 5.
This is the Transtech. Okay. Is someone from Transtech here today?
Through the chair, yes, we have representatives Transtech.
Okay, wonderful. For the benefit of the residents, for the representative of Transtech, can you please describe the efforts to promote accessibility, physical accessibility, and how that works? Because I read within the report how you have accessibility inspectors and so forth. Can you describe that? And I'll explain why later. But I just need this described, please, for the public.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Tarango, building official. I'm with Isla Jefferson, one of your building officials. Good evening, members of the council, mayor. I can explain how the building official and the building department can promote, as well as how we are part of the approval process that reviews structures or development for accessibility. Our role at the building department starts when a permit is applied for, and a project is submitted. So the building department reviews that project to make sure that accessible features are implemented in the plans. And then our building inspectors inspect according to those plans and according to code. We at the building department are also advocates for accessibility. We get a lot of phone calls from residents, from business owners asking questions about accessibility. We have trained staff, they're called CASPs, who review our plans. They're certified access specialists. So they review plans as well as do inspections on projects that require permits to make sure that they meet the current accessible requirements that are supposed to be implemented.
And to what extent do you specifically work on enforcement of or implementation of Title 24 within the state as well as the 2010 ADA standards?
So the ADA standards are typically enforced by federal, mostly in the public right-of-way. We at the building department enforce Title 24 accessibility. The good thing is the current Title 24 accessibility and the ADA standards are almost identical. A few years ago, we kind of married the two with our code sections and the requirements. So in essence, we enforce both federal and state requirements on development projects.
So in your role for us as a city, you help to ensure our compliance with Title II of the ADA, and then for businesses by them consulting with you through the permit process that helps ensure their compliance with Title III of the ADA?
Absolutely. When we sign the final building permit or we issue a certificate of occupancy, we're ensuring that we've done our review to make sure that that project is accessible as per code.
And to what extent is that publicized, or is there a seal of for businesses to show that they are accessible, or are all businesses here presumably accessible through the work that you're doing?
So any business that has applied for a permit, we ensure that project, whichever portion that they're working on, meets the standards that are required, because not all existing buildings have to be accessible. At least for the building department, we are only involved in those that actually get permits. So the building permit as well as the certificate of occupancy is our seal. There's also an entity called the Certified Access Specialists that we always recommend business owners to contact that can provide them with an actual certificate that they meet current code for accessibility.
Thank you. No more questions. Move to approve.
Well, go ahead.
Quick question is, and I know how long you've been with us? 2 years?
It's been a little over 2 years now, yes.
About 2 years, right? Because last time we have a contract for 2 years.
Yes.
So, and I think this 2 years, previously we have Weldon, to do the building and safety, but they fell through, the service, and you took over. And if we decide to go to in-house, but we just try you out first. I think you did this 2 years did a pretty good job. But still some issues sometimes. For example, I think we still have a contractor issue on the Cortez Park. Remember that? That have a major delay and kind of cost a little bit more. So we and a lot of people try to chase us down, say, what happened? Why is it taking forever? So hopefully we can identify the contractor is credible. So how you select the contractor, and how you, make sure they have a credibility, so we don't have to waste time, waste money, and create an issue for the community.
So that specific project is a city project, which I'm not a part of on the building side. That's more of our engineering public works side. But us as a company, how do we pick consultants or contractors for a project? I don't get involved in. Maybe Melissa might be able to help me answer that. But that's not that question.
Oh, Melissa is an engineer, yes.
Yes, she's on our engineering side.
So if I could add, their capital improvement projects that Transec does for us is through our engineering agreement. and services, which
So maybe you can give us some information since you're already here. Don't want to you just show up for nothing, but at least share some information with us.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. In relation to how contractors are selected, it's typically the lowest, most responsive, most responsible bidder, and that's per the government code. So it's based on what is bid at, and we don't really have control over that. It's typically the lowest bidder, and I'll refer to a city attorney and staff to also provide additional information.
Since we have that issue, just want to kind of say, well, can we avoid a potential issue in the future? Since we're going to have a hopefully long-term relationship, okay, and we can continue to find a better contractor, so we don't, okay, and go into something that unexpected that due to the issue that can avoid it. That's only one I want to hopefully that can be improved. Okay, and that's the first thing. Second thing is regarding Frontier. Frontier, the utility company that dig our street, they damage our sidewalk, and I don't know who is approving that issue. Okay, they create a major issue for all the residents. So many people complaining about the sidewalk. Okay, and they did very shady job to become uneven on the sidewalk. Nobody can walk on the sidewalk, especially people with walker. Okay, so how we avoid that situation? And they dig all the places with patching all the places, and the street is become extremely problematic in all the entire south side.
Through the chair, sorry. So that would also be through the engineering contract.
So it's not the building and safety?
Not building and safety.
But they didn't do they didn't do the check. I think they did a permit check.
So the utility companies would go through our engineering department to apply for a permit to do any work on our city streets, which is not the contract that's before you tonight.
I understand, but when they approve, when they finish, will our permit department to check about their
not building
safety?
You guys can correct me.
Who's doing the checking about their so-called after they dig the street open, they cover it up? It's not from building and safety to double check. So who is checking their?
That would be our engineering department.
Engineer doing that thing, not the building and safety. So can you share CCOs in the same company? Because we have a major issue for that. And since you're here.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. I heard about your concern on the public right-of-way issues. I want to clarify that building and safety jurisdiction is within the private properties only.
Okay.
And we will make sure to relay the message to our engineering department and making sure that they follow up the concerns you raised tonight.
So the building and safety only doing the private property and development
Exactly.
has nothing to do the public right away. So you guys don't check anything. That would be by your department engineering is from Transtech too.
Correct. The building and safety handles the private property constructions, and engineering department handles anything within the public right of way.
Okay, and so in that it's clear. Okay, I'm not going to put you on the spot even more. Okay, so we will talk about when we want to renew the contract for engineer. Okay, thank you so much. But regarding the contract is 2 years. It's a 2-year contract we're going to approve today.
The chair.
Sorry.
The term of this agreement runs for 3 years. Unless previously terminated, there's a 15-day termination clause should services become
15 minutes,
sufficient.
15 days.
Yes, sir. And then there's a maximum of 2 successive 1-year extensions under this agreement.
It's with cause termination or without cause?
It's on a because I said so basis.
So, say that again. No cause termination. Without cause, right? So we can. No, I'm not trying to terminate you. Doing a good job. I'm just saying. So we have a protection. Like we have a problem with our street sweeping. We cannot even do something. Okay. So with this, at least we have a tease to make sure you can do a good job. Currently, you're doing an excellent job. You have a very little complaint. Okay, I just want to share with you. But thank you so much for your service. But we just want to put you on the edge, make sure you can continue to do the good job. Okay, I know I've been check you guys out all the time. Okay, but thank you. But why we need 3 years? If we have already the previous 2 years, why we need 3 years this time? I know they're doing a good job, but why we need 3 years? Can we do 2 years?
Well,
Who's talking?
Through the chair, if I may answer. We are recommending a 3-year contract because we are quite satisfied with the services we're receiving from this contractor. We talked briefly about customer service. This firm has taken customer service to a new level. They call it customer care. And I can tell you, this is an area where people are not reticent to complain.
I understand, but
I don't get complaints.
I know, but why we need 3 years? My question is, when we previously approved 2 years, why not still doing the 2 years?
Well, certainly that term of the contract would be up ultimately to the council. My recommendation would be 3.
Why 1 extra year? I'm just curious. Why can we just go with the old contract? 2 years, every 2 years we go through it. 2 years is 24 months. So why we need 36 months?
I would recommend 36 months because this is not an area of our city operation that's broken. And we've got lots of areas that need my attention, and this is not one of them. It's a relationship I'm satisfied with.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor. So do we have any problem with 3 years? Or you think 2 years? They're doing a good job. But
I'm okay with 3 years.
Okay with 3 years?
Yeah, I'm okay. I mean, the only thing if you'd like to request is just an update, within after the 2nd year mark, they can just come in and update to just make sure that we're kept in the loop.
Yeah, I'm more worried about because you give them a long contract. Okay, sometimes they get. Okay.
Well, that's why it's almost like a review. So we can.
So that's why if we still give them 24 months, doesn't mean we're going to stop with them. But they still have a renew after that. But at least a little bit more, okay, and put them to do their job. They're doing a good job. Okay, I got call from you guys Monday and the holiday, and you guys still working there and calling me about my garage, and I already gave up. I'm not going to build. Okay. So, but the point is this: they're working even on the Monday, the day off, after I think Christmas or New Year, the day off. So I want to thank you for the service, and I'm impressed. Okay, this Monday. Okay, and
you okay?
But not. I still prefer 2 years, but I don't know if you guys don't want. Okay, with I don't want to.
I mean, we could request a 2-year update presentation and just seeing everything that's been done or give our reviews.
Yeah, at least we can see them every 24 months. Otherwise, they never show up.
We could have
other 36 months, that's over his time. So 2 years, he's still over here with us.
Or if you like 3 year and a yearly review, so you can see their faces and come to the dais. So
there's still a termination.
You just have them all.
Anyway, so.
Yeah. Okay. And if you guys with okay with 3 years, I don't want to make a motion and nobody wants a second. Yeah.
Move to approve as originally proposed.
And I'll second it.
I have a motion by Councilman Contos and a second by Mayor Diaz to approve the contract with TransTech. Councilman Contos?
Aye.
Councilman Wu?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai?
Aye.
Mayor Diaz?
Aye.
Item passes 5-0.
Thank you. Councilman Cantus, number 7.
Number 7 is item consideration of the annual comprehensive financial report and other related reports for the year end June 30th, 2022.
Thank you very much. Mr. City Manager, can you describe some of the budgetary things that you said that are really worth mentioning to celebrate? Because I'd like for the public to hear what you've said.
Through the chair, I'd like to invite our finance director, Stephanie Sikkema, to give a very brief synopsis about this item, which is the item we used to call the CAFR, and they've changed the nomenclature a bit. It's now called the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. It's a good news story, and I'd like for Stephanie to share it.
Thank you. Good evening. The city ended last fiscal year with a general fund balance of $24.2 million, $20.8 million of which was unassigned. The city's total net position increased by 142%, or over $37 million from the prior fiscal year. This is mostly due to the decrease in long-term debt related to the net pension liability and an increase in assets. In the prior year, there was an issuance of lease revenue bonds that led mainly to this change that the city's now experiencing. I'd also like to add that additionally, the auditors did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls over financial reporting that they considered to be internal weaknesses, which is a first for the city in many years, as far as I know. I would like to say that's not possible without the team that we have supporting us, and I'd like to also introduce our assistant finance director who's back there. The accounting staff is really what led to those clean financials for this year.
Madam Director, can you please describe your efforts to further move us along with regard in response to the State Auditing Committee? And we met extensively about this, and you explained how we're working to get to green in different areas. Can you please describe that?
Yes, so the city's auditor report, or their dashboard specifically, looks at the city's net position and its reserves. And as the city continues to grow those reserves and increase its net position, we stand a chance of moving more towards the green on that dashboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to move the motion?
Okay, a quick, just one sentence. Just want to say you're doing a magnificent job. Okay, I just want to say thank you. We have a very strong, finance team. Okay, and as a director from you, I love Robin. Okay, Robin Bird. Okay, and recruit you and put us in a good hand. And so thank you so much. And then I can see continue a good news about our number. And with this, refinance and lower ours, CalPERS interest rate from more than 7% at the time, not down to 25 years fixed rate for 3.7%. We cut down 50% of our expenditure just paying the interest. So that's a very good move. Just want to thank you so much. And let time, with this. Otherwise, now the interest is so high and nobody can do a refi. And I think the interest now go to 7-8%. So, but thank you so much. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all? Any more questions? No?
Move motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mayor Diaz. Would you like to second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Diaz, a second by Councilman Wu. Councilman Contos?
Aye.
Councilman Wu?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai?
Aye.
Mayor Diaz?
Aye.
The next item, Mayor, that was pulled is item number 9, and that is consideration of a resolution amending the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. Mayor, we have our finance director here at the podium to answer any questions.
Councilman Cantos, I believe you pulled that one.
Thank you so much for being here this evening. I just had a question about with regard to the reallocations. Can you? I'm just still learning to understand what was the basis for these reallocations, and is our reserves impacted? Because I thought there was a figure of roughly $5 million, and I thought that we had a reserve of $24 million, and then if we were to reallocate, then that would only create an availability of our reserve of $19 million, or am I misreading that? I just wanted clarification.
Yes. So the city has a fund balance policy that basically states after the end of each fiscal year, we'll look at our unassigned fund balance, which was roughly about $20 million. And from that, we will move 25% will stay in reserves so that we continue to maintain a good reserve balance, which is on top of what the reserve requirement is. And then 40% will be transferred to the capital projects fund so we can invest in our infrastructure. And then 10% is transferred to our vehicle replacement fund to help with replacement of our vehicles. And then 25% goes to pay down other post-employment benefit liabilities. And for this particular one, I'm recommending that the city create a separate fund in which we start to look at the interest gained internally versus what it would take to go out to the market and invest that otherwise. And so by setting aside in a separate fund, I can then actually calculate the interest on that 25%. So that's actually not leaving the city. None of that money is actually leaving our coffers. It's going to different funds to be invested in different ways.
That's great.
So the net impact to the general fund from this outside of that is neutral.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I move to approve.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Councilman Contos and a second by Mayor Diaz. Councilman Contos?
Aye.
Councilman Wu?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai?
Aye.
Mayor Diaz?
Aye.
Item passes 5-0.
Okay, that moves us to item number 11, West Covina Police Department Detective Bureau overview.
Wherever you prefer. Sit, stand.
Up to you.
Oh, they want you right here. Nope, the mayor pointed right here. I'm going to stand right here. Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you? Good.
Mayor Pro Tem, how are you? Council, staff, public that stayed, thank you for staying. My name's Ken Plunkett. I'm a captain with our police department, and I'm assigned to oversee our investigative and support services division, which encompasses our investigative units, the detective bureau, and our special enforcement team, and then all of the administrative functions of the department. In keeping with the department's mission of providing the highest level of service and protection to our residents and progressively enhancing the police department as we move into the future, I think this presentation will show you all the good work that our police department does in keeping with that mission and those ideals. And I'm excited to be here. And I appreciate the opportunity and the privilege to kind of give an overview of our detective bureau. Should I just point? All right. So, like I said, our detective bureau, this is kind of just organizational. We're going to get started just to kind of tell you how it flows. It's under the umbrella of the Investigative and Support Services Division. Our detective bureau is a major component of the department's commitment to providing essential frontline law enforcement services to our community. Annually, as a budget note, our detective bureau accounts for approximately 14% of our total general fund budget for the police department. Next slide. All right, this is kind of how our investigative assignments are broken up. We break them up into three sections. We have our crimes against persons section, our crimes against property team or section, and then our special enforcement team. Obviously, the person section, they investigate crimes such as homicide, robbery, kidnapping, assault and batteries, basically everything where there's a person that's a victim. The property section, conversely, is crimes we investigate that involve crimes of property, burglary, theft, forgery, fraud, stuff like that. And the property section also encompasses our forensics team, which we'll get into here in a minute. And then our special enforcement team, they're responsible for investigating major narcotic investigations into drug trafficking organizations. And they also serve as a surveillance and kind of a field follow-up team for our detectives when we have high-profile cases. Go to the next slide. Thank you. Diving into our detective bureau, focusing down. This is kind of how we have two sides of the room. We call it the property and the person side. Each side has a sergeant, and we have a lieutenant that oversees the entire detective bureau. He oversees the person's property and the special enforcement team. This is the makeup of detectives on each side. For our person side, you can see we have 8 detectives assigned. We have a crime analyst, a victim's advocate. We have a detective assigned to the U.S. Marshals Task Force, and we have our social media public relations person kind of under that side of the room. Under our property section, we have 3 sworn detectives. We have 1 detective that's assigned to our regional trap team, which we'll cover here in a minute. And let's see, we have the court liaison CSO, which is a community service officer, and we also have another community service officer that helps with case preparations. If you stay on that slide for a minute, is everybody familiar with what desks we have within the detective bureau? I don't know how long you guys want this, but I was going to go over each assignment that we have on each side and kind of tell you what they investigate. Is that? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I said. You want me to just give you a brief breakdown of what the detectives do?
Yeah.
Okay. Please. So on our person side, like I said, we have 8 detectives. 2 are assigned to the homicide desk. Our homicide detectives, they're assigned to investigate homicides, attempt homicides, suspicious deaths, to include suicides.
How many in the homicide? Two.
Yes, sir. When we have fatal traffic collisions where there's criminal culpability, they take over the investigation. They do suspicious missing persons, and they also liaison with the coroner's office for our department. We have 2 robbery detectives assigned to the robbery desk. These detectives are assigned to investigate robberies, assaults, batteries, assault with deadly weapons, any weapons violations, kidnappings, and they serve as a backup role to our homicide detectives, and they also get assigned special cases. Our robbery detectives liaison with the FBI office, who they have control over bank robberies, and we assist on those investigations, and we work with them. We have 2 detectives assigned to sex crimes. Our sex crimes detectives investigate child abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect. They investigate sexual abuse, rape, sexual batteries, human trafficking, physical elder abuse, parental stranger abductions, indecent exposure cases, sex registrant violations, and they also are responsible for monitoring our sex registrants, and they do an annual registration at the station. We have 1 detective assigned to our domestic violence desk, and that detective is assigned to investigate domestic violence cases and also violations or restraining orders. We also have 1 detective that's assigned as our ICAC detective, which is the internet crimes relating to child pornography, sexual exploitation, and human trafficking cases. This detective is part of the Los Angeles Regional Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force and serves as a task force officer for the Homeland Security Investigations Child Exploitation Group. On our property side, as I mentioned, we have 3 detectives. We have 1 detective assigned to financial crimes. So this detective is looking into forgery, fraud, financial elder abuse, financial scams, and then investigations involving auto theft, but financial fraud, where they buy a car through fraudulent means, and they work with our trap team. We have 1 burglary detective, and this detective is assigned to investigate both commercial and residential burglaries. And the 3rd detective is assigned to auto theft and miscellaneous property crimes, which includes vandalisms, thefts, shoplifting, crimes of that nature. Just on a note for our detectives, just a survey of 9 local cities. We have a total of 11 detectives, and we are, out of the 9, we are ranked 8th in the number of detectives that we have per our population. And looking at crime statistics back in 2020, and I go back to 2020 for crime statistics for a reason. The FBI reports crime statistics used to be the UCR coding, Uniform Crime Reporting System. We are in a transition phase into what's called NIBRS now, the National Incident-Based Reporting System. So NIBRS is still getting up and running, and the data is kind of all over the place, and we're hoping as everybody comes current in 2023 and starts using NIBRS data, the data that will come out of that is more relevant and accurate. But according to the 2020 data that we had for UCRs, UCR coding West Covina reported the 3rd highest number of violent crimes out of the 9 cities and the 2nd highest number of property crimes. Go to the next slide. All right, the additional resources that we have within the Detective Bureau. We have a detective that's signed to TRAP. It's the Los Angeles County Regional Multi-Jurisdictional Multi-Agency Task Force that investigates, prosecutes, and deters vehicle theft and vehicle fraud on a coordinated and cooperative basis. It is authorized by the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors and is administered through the Countywide Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee. Basically, TRAP, they go after theft rings and big auto theft investigations. something significant that our trap detective was able to bring was when we had the catalytic converter deal where we were marking people's catalytic converters. Our trap officer with his team actually took the lead on that and coordinated that effort, so it was a very successful venture. Our ICAC detective, I just wanted to talk a little bit about it, the Internet Crimes Against Children's detective. So this past year, about 9 months ago, we implemented this new detective in our detective bureau. When tips come in about child pornography and stuff on the internet, they come into a national reporting system, and then it goes to a regional level. LAPD is kind of our regional lead, and then the tips from there get filtered down to West Covina. So there was a shift in the funding, and LAPD could no longer handle the load of all the cases, so we started getting tips that we needed a detective to handle, and with this important of a caseload, we put a detective back there. The Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force program is a national network of 61 coordinated task forces representing over 5,400 federal, state, and local law enforcement dedicated to investigating, prosecuting, and developing effective responses to Internet crimes against children. Your West Covina Police Department is an affiliate of the Los Angeles Regional Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, responsible for investigations throughout Los Angeles and neighboring counties. And like I said, our detective is also assigned as a task force officer for Homeland Security. Throughout 2022, the West Covina Police ICAC detective received over 100 tips from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Our investigative operations resulted in multiple arrests of online predators, as well as the identification of multiple child victims. Moving on, the next is the U.S. Marshals Task Force. The United States Marshal Service oversees the nation's regional fugitive task force established under the Presidential Threat Protection Act of 2000. The purpose of the Regional Fugitive Task Force is to combine the efforts of federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies to locate and apprehend the most dangerous fugitives and assist in high-profile investigations. The West Covina Marshals Task Force officers assigned to the Central Division covering Los Angeles County. West Covina uses these resources to apprehend. If we have wanted suspects, we rely heavily on the Marshals team to come in and give us their resources to help us to catch those suspects. They're a great resource to us. Our Special Enforcement team, although they're kind of separate from the Detective Bureau, I just wanted to, this year, our Special Enforcement team, in conjunction with INCA, which is the Inland Crackdown Allied Task Force, received the 2022 Exemplary State and Local Partnership Award from the Department of Homeland Security for their efforts, which was a big deal, very high honor, and we're very proud of them. Additional resources in our Detective Bureau also include our Victims Advocate. I don't know if everybody knows, but we have a full-time Victims Advocate that's in our Detective Bureau. Diane Franklin, she's a great resource. She makes over 2,000 contacts every year, and she provides referrals to services for families and victims of crimes. She walks them through the court process, and she's just a great resource to have within our Detective Bureau. We also have a crime analyst that identifies crime trends and helps our detectives in those areas, and she's also responsible for our crime-free multi-housing program. She coordinates neighborhood watch activities, and she's really instrumental in our National Night Out efforts. Next slide, please. Our Forensic Identification Unit, I told you I'd come back to it, FIU. So our department has a pretty proud history of our providing forensic services. We have been the leader in this area, along with the Sheriff's Department and LAPD, who are bigger agencies and have these services as well. But we used to have a sworn detective assigned as our investigator, and at one time when we had high numbers, we had two. But the sworn, having the sworn detective on there was, when they wanted to promote out or they wanted to change careers, it was a lot of training and a lot of experience generated to just kind of jump out of the unit. So like most agencies, we went with a civilian forensics team model approach. And this year we were able to recruit and attract one of the most highly regarded forensics experts in the area. And we hired Adam in September, and he's our forensics unit supervisor. Along with the crime scene investigation, the fingerprint analysis, the diagramming, the DNA collection, all the evidence stuff that they do, we also provide services to local agencies around us. We have contracts with the cities of Alhambra, Azusa, Baldwin Park, Covina, El Monte, Glendora, Irwindale, Walnut Sheriff Station, and Monrovia. A lot of these cities don't have forensic services. We do. And what drew them to us was waiting for the sheriff's lab to get stuff, especially fingerprints on burglaries could take a tremendous amount of time. Our detectives were able to process that faster. So we have those contracts. Our detective retired beginning of 2020. And like I said, we brought Adam on in about September. And as our detective was getting ready to leave, he had to contact all the agencies to let them know, hey, we're not going to be able to provide these services for a while until we get reestablished. So we haven't been providing those services to outside agencies. Adam has come in. He's getting our equipment all set up. He's getting our laboratory state certified. He's reestablishing those contracts, looking through them to make sure they're current and practical. And really, when we hired Adam, it was part of a forensic series that we created and the council approved. We created the forensic supervisor position. We created a forensics lead, and then we created a forensic specialist. One of the reasons the detectives didn't survive as our forensics person, especially alone, is the call-out load. We get a lot of call-outs for forensic services just within our own department, and they just get burned out, and they need help. The other reason we need at least two is fingerprint. When you get fingerprint evidence off of something in a case, so that these detectives are trained to identify the fingerprint and then match it to a person, right? In order for it to be court certified and be worth anything, they have to have it authenticated by a second person, right? So with one detective, we don't have that second ability to authenticate the fingerprints. We used to count on retired detectives who did it, who would come back and help us, but we no longer have that resource available to us. So we're really hopeful that we can add at least one, best case scenario, those two positions in the next budget cycle. If we can find those resources, we'd greatly appreciate it. We can get that. We can get those services to the surrounding agencies up and running, and we can also provide more services. We can. Some agencies can't do process scenes; they just don't have the people. And instead of calling the sheriffs, it could be something that we could do. I just wanted to show you in 2019, 2020, we did receive about $27,000 in revenue from those forensic services. And
I'm sorry, how much?
27,000 received. And then 2021, we received 10,000. So I just want you guys to keep in mind that 2020 was a really down year for crime statistics. Everything went down, and there wasn't a whole lot of fingerprint evidence being processed anyway. So since that time, 2020, 2021, we haven't generated any revenue because we haven't had the resources to generate, but we're hoping if we could add at least one, hopefully two positions to the forensics unit, I think it'll be a great resource for not only our city and our residents, but for the community locally. Next slide. This one briefly, I just want to kind of talk about sometimes it's not really clearly understood what detectives do. Like, why do we need detectives? What do they actually do? So we kind of gave you this is patrol, this is detective, right? This is what they do. So basically, the patrol officers, they respond to the call, they conduct a preliminary investigation, they control the scene, they make it safe. It's basic evidence collection is what they do. If there's anything more past the basic evidence collection, then our detectives or our FIU team would be called in to handle that. our patrol, they can make an arrest or they can not make an arrest based on what they have in front of them. There's limitations. There's various experience levels, and there's really no long-term investment in the case. Once they handle it in the field and turn in their report, they're kind of done with it, right? But it's at that point that our detectives actually become involved if we hadn't been called to the scene to help them investigate. So basically, from start to finish, I just walk you through when we have Travis, we good? We're good? Thank you. All right, so when we have a contact in the field, we either get called or an officers make a proactive stop. We generate either an arrest report or a crime report, right? Somebody calls to report a burglary, or we arrest somebody for something, we create a report. Okay, that report goes to the field sergeant to be approved. That arrest gets approved by our field sergeant. It goes to our watch commander for the report to be approved, and then it gets funneled to the detective bureau. Our detective bureau sergeants are assigned the cases. They review the cases, and they decide if it's active, if it's suspended, and we'll go over that stuff in a minute, and then where it goes. And then once it gets to a detective, that's when we start investigating. Every single case that we get that's an arrest or a crime report, we investigate, and we seek a closure on it, whether it's a clearance through an arrest, through filing the criminal court charges in court. Our detectives touch and have to look in almost every single case that comes through. So whether it's they look at it quickly and say, there's nothing we can do on this case, we got to close it, or we got a lot of stuff to do on that case. And the detective takes it all the way through court appearances, where they act as the liaison for the DA's office. We do the witness coordination. You could see on the slide all the stuff that they're responsible for. There's after conviction participation, follow-up, court appearances that the detectives have to continually follow up on certain cases. So it's a very long-term investment. I just want everybody to be aware that the detectives are involved in every single case that we have, whether they present it for a closure or a clearance, or they get it all the way through prosecution. Go to the next slide. This is our caseload. This is a snapshot of what our detective bureau looked like from November 2021 through November 2022 is the time frame that we pulled these statistics from. I can go over if you guys have specific questions. I know we don't want to be here all night, but if you guys want to go over the dispositions, the words written after the numbers, if you have any questions on what those mean, we can. But I'll go through it real quick.
Sorry, City Manager, do we have a copy of this?
Through the chair, one of the things we tried to do this time was to attach all the PowerPoints and distribute them when the packets went out. So it's in your packet.
Okay, so going over the numbers for the caseloads there, you could see we had a total of 6,110 cases total that the detectives were assigned. And you could see we have 1,239 open cases. Open cases means active. Means we're actively investigating and they haven't been solved yet. The inactive suspended cases, those are the cases that come in that we don't have any evidence to follow up on, right? It's a whodunit, it's a vehicle burglary with nothing. And those cases just kind of hang there. The good thing about those cases, if we happen upon, say an officer takes a burglary report and they take fingerprints, and we submit the fingerprints. When the detectives finally get to, or our forensic supervisor now gets to the fingerprint and we get a print match, that case can be put in the open or active case so that then we can follow up on it. Any questions on this slide?
How many, Madam Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman Cantos.
How many are on the inactive case, and do we keep statistics on any cases that are considered cold cases, and how do those stats compare to other jurisdictions similar in size to ours?
Great question, Mr. Contos. I was getting there next, but I'll go there now. So the inactive suspended cases is 2316 for this time, 2,316 for this time period. That's how many of the 6,110 cases sit as inactive. What you're referring to as far as the cold cases, that's kind of a term that's been popularized by TV. There's no statute of limitations on homicides, right? So that means, like on a basic misdemeanor, you have a year to file the case after it happens. If the statute of limitations is up, the case doesn't get filed. On felonies, as a general rule, you have a 3-year statute of limitations that you have to investigate and prosecute a case. For homicides or any case that's punishable by life imprisonment, there's no limitations on those cases. So they're basically open forever. So a case when they say there's a cold case, that means it's an old case. So a lot of like DNA evidence, right? We didn't have the capabilities back in the 80s, really in the 90s, not up until recently where we had DNA evidence capabilities. So they went back in all these old cases and they're finding DNA evidence that they couldn't process back in the day. And those are deemed cold cases that they're reopening because they're things. We just have them in our suspended inactive cases. But as a comparison, I'm glad you brought that up. I want to specifically talk about our homicide cases. According to the UCR, I talked about the Uniform Crime Reporting data that comes from the FBI. For the last, I call it 4 years, since 2018, for homicides, there's been an average clearance rate for agencies in LA County at 57.475%. So 50% of the homicides that occur in LA County are actually solved. The LA County Sheriff's Department, we partner with them all the time. We talk to them about statistics, and they hover around 52%. And you just got to remember with LA County Sheriffs, the high volume of calls, of course, they're going to get less calls that go, or more cases that go unsolved because of the volume of cases they have. So we have homicide stats going back to 1980. I can tell you that we have averaged since 1980 about 4.9 homicides a year. And our clearance rate on our homicides is at 76.64%. So we are, thank you. Thank you. Our detectives do an outstanding job. And again, this is one of our pride spots because there's some agencies that don't do their own homicides. But this is one of our expertise, and this is something that we pride ourselves on. And as you can see by the numbers, our detectives do a fantastic job. Did that answer your question, sir?
It does, Acting Chief Plunkett. Thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate that. So you see on that slide, that 41% cleared, that's when you put them all together. Go ahead, Letty.
Madam Mayor, Councilwoman Letty Lopez Viado, go ahead.
On your caseload, the 98 unfounded and the 77 will not investigate. What are those?
Good question. So the unfounded cases are just crimes that we determined the crime didn't occur. Right? At first, we took a report. Maybe we took a suspicious report, or somebody says, "No, I'm adamant that she stole my this." And through investigation, we figure out that it just didn't occur, didn't happen. So we dispo it, we close it as unfounded. For the 77, will not investigate. Different. These are crimes where the statute of limitations have expired. So we get those. We're not going to investigate them. The crimes occur in another jurisdiction. So we pass them off. Like we get reports all the time from other, mostly fraud and stuff from other jurisdictions, and they send them to us to investigate. And then like missing persons. So if a missing person returns home, there's no investigation. So we close it as will not investigate. These closures are actually, we have a system called Mark 43, and that's our records management system, and these dispositions are the options that we have to use. I've been doing this without my glasses the whole time. I'm figuring out, why can't I see? But I don't have my glasses. All right. Any other questions?
Yes, I know you gave us a percentage of the LA County with the homicide, but what about the clearance case compared to like LA County or other cities? I know we have 41% cleared last year.
Yeah, so that number we just put on there as an overall. Like I said, there was 6,110 cases total that are on that for the year. And then what we did is we kind of subtracted out all the cases that met certain criteria. They were filed with a DA, they were cleared other reason, victim refuses to prosecute, DA rejects, all the cases that aren't either active or inactive. You add that up and you have 2,478 cases, and then you obviously divide that by the number and you get 40%. So it's kind of we're right around the national average. It's right around 40% is the national average for total clearance rates, but to really figure out the percentage, you got to break into different categories. For instance, like burglaries, the LA County average for clearance rate on burglaries is really low. It's like it was 11.9%, 13.3%, 12.5%. Because burglaries, you get your car broken into and there's no evidence. How do you solve it? So the cases sit unsolved, right? So GTA, the grand theft or motor vehicle theft, I know that's a video game. We don't like to say that. But they're down, 8.9%, 7.7%. And we hover around the LA County averages. The one that we really excel in is our homicide investigations.
Any other questions?
Next slide.
No.
Or do you have a question, ma'am?
Okay. No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. The case differences, we've kind of gone over this, the different cases that we have, but I kind of want to talk about the major incidents. Kind of what are high profile cases? What do those things look like? We look at major incidents to involve the gamut of things. But if you had to make a list, we put down active shooter, officer-involved shootings, a homicide, a suspicious death, an armed robbery, a fatal traffic accident, a kidnapping. Things of those nature are major crimes that are going to get a lot of investigative follow-up and a lot of investigative response. But they're also going to summons the media, right? So that's where we get some media attention. I'm going to get into media stuff here in a minute. Like I said before, patrol's function is to arrive at the scene and stabilize the situation, make arrests, detain witnesses, involve parties, collect and preserve evidence where necessary, and then they call the detectives in to handle the investigative part of it. The detectives, they got to come in and make some really fast and crucial decisions, and we kind of think about it in two categories. We got to make decisions that are obviously always best for the case, looking at the steps that we got to make now, and then looking out for the ultimate goal, which is a successful prosecution, right? So we have to make decisions that are in the short term. Some of those are what's best in the now. Who do we interview first? Do we interrogate the suspect now? Do we interrogate him later? Do we make the arrest now? Do we wait? Search warrants. What search warrant do we need? Are there additional locations? What other resources are we needed? Right? But long-term thinking is successful prosecution, and how does this add up to a successful case? Really what that means is coming to the realization of what the truth is, what really happened, and then presenting that to the DA's office and hopefully bringing justice to the families of the victims. You guys have heard of the TV show, I'm sure, The First 48.
Love it.
Yeah, everybody loves that show, and man, everything gets solved in 48 hours for sure, right? And then CSI, everything gets solved like in 30 minutes, right? That's an even faster one. Those don't do us any justice because they're just unrealistic, and that's not how things happen in the real world. The 48-hour rule comes from, but when we make an arrest, we have 48 hours to present that case to the DA's office for filing. So if we don't, we can get extensions. They're called probable cause declarations. I won't bore you with that for now. But as a general rule, within 48 hours, when you make an arrest, you got to take that case over to the DA for filing, right? So that's when I talk about decision to make an arrest of a suspect is not controversial, but it's not easy, because does the evidence line up? Now, does the evidence line up enough for us to make an arrest? Sure, the burden of proof is way lower than what it takes to successfully prosecute a case. So the district attorney looks at things very different than we do, right? So if we don't have enough evidence at the time of arrest or within that 48 hours for a successful prosecution, we have to release a suspect, right? And that's part of it. You know, there's cases on TV. I know there was one where the driver hit those poor kids running at the academy, right? And the driver was arrested, and then everybody was up in arms because he was released. Well, you got to do investigation, right? Another case that we'll get into the Idaho case a little bit when we talk about the media, but just so you guys know where that comes from, that 48 hours, and just know that the clock starts. So sometimes we make that decision not to make that arrest because we know we don't have what we need to prosecute a case. The use of the media, why do some cases get media attention? I mean, if you look at the list that I gave, active shooter, officer involved shooting, those are no-brainers, right? Everybody wants to see those mass casualty incidents. Everybody wants to see that on TV. But to be honest with you, sometimes it's just because there's not a whole lot going on. And the media will grab a hold of whatever they can grab a hold of, and they're trying to do a great job covering stuff, and, you know, pursuits sell. And sometimes that's why they get media attention. We want to use the media to our advantage the best that we can, right? We want to educate the public when we talk to the media. We want to protect the community, right? If we got to put out information that there's danger to the community, we want that information out. We need the media to help us. We want to dispel rumors. If there's rumors out there about something that happened that's not true, we may use the media to help us. And we want to use the media to control the narrative if we can, right? If we want what we want to put out, we can use the media for that. In a lot of cases, it's a very positive thing to seek out the help of the media to get your information out. But there are some instances where you got to really look at the evidence and the situation and decide what kind of things you want out and what kind of things you don't want out, right? It's all based on the individual circumstances of each case, and it's all tied, again, going back to a successful prosecution, right? Everything that we do and everything that we say during an active and open investigation could jeopardize the case. And I'll give you some examples. If we as I'm sure everybody's been watching TV and you've seen the murders that happened in Idaho, right? I wasn't part of that team that investigated it. I'm not going to speak to any evidence or anything that happened, but man, Idaho was getting blasted for lack of information, right? And they stuck to their guns, and they found their suspect. And it sounds like they got a pretty solid case on that suspect. They're waiting, I'm assuming, for DNA evidence to come back and for all the pieces to come together to go make that arrest. Because, again, they have 48 hours to file that case once they make that arrest. So they had to put it together. And there was information that they were holding on to that if it would have gone public could have jeopardized that case. Okay, it could have caused that suspect to flee. It could have caused, who knows, it could have caused all kinds of people to come out of the woodwork and say, I saw it, I was there, this and that, this and that. So if we're investigating a case, let's say a homicide, it's a high profile case. Homicide cases are generally slow. They're not real fast, right? You get a robbery, you respond to the scene, you catch the robbers, they got the guns, you get the jewelry, and everybody has a good time. We put those arrests pretty easily. Homicides are a very slow, methodical type investigation. So if we have information that a crime was committed in a certain way, there was a certain weapon used, certain characteristics about the crime that would really only be known to somebody who may have been there or somebody who's tightly connected to somebody who was there, and information that we can use down the line is credible. So if we blast out everything we have to the public. We use the media and we say, we got all this stuff. So we just told everybody what we have. So now what you kind of do is you convolute the witness pool, right? Because everybody's going to be calling to give you a little piece, especially when there's reward money offered, right? Hey, I got a tip. Well, the second thing it does, it convolutes the witness's credibility in the eyes of the DA, right? So if we use somebody's testimony, right, as evidence to the case to convict a suspect, it's got to be credible. And one way that we can keep it credible is by holding those pieces of information tight. And if somebody comes forward and connects those dots, we know that's credible. We know that they were there or they were close to somebody that were there. And in the DA's mind and eyes, that's viewed as a credible testimony, right? If this person comes forward and gives all the details that we gave them, because we provided it to everybody, it's not credible. And if that's the piece you need for a successful prosecution, you've ruined your case. You spent all your time investigating. The case is not going to get successfully prosecuted, and that family will never get justice. It's a very hard, complex thing. We all want information. We all want to know things, but the last thing we as a police department are going to do is jeopardize a case. We want successful prosecution. That's what we're looking for as our ultimate goal, and we're going to protect that. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but if you all remember the Night Stalker case. So if you've watched that series on Netflix, if you haven't, I'd suggest you check it out. But in that Night Stalker case, if you guys remember,
Mayor Feinstein.
Yeah,
San Francisco.
I wasn't going to say her name, but you did.
It's okay. We can say it.
Repeat it. But they were starting to link the crimes together because of shoe prints. The suspect was wearing the same shoes. That information was leaked to the media, and when that happened, the suspect changed his shoes. Now, if you watch the series, you'll know why it's significant, because they did an incredible amount of investigation on those shoe types and where they came from, and they were narrowing in on the suspect. And I don't know if it led to additional people being killed because that information was out, and he changed his motive, right? So we got to be very careful about letting information to get out to jeopardize cases. We could send a suspect into hiding. If we prematurely do a press release and say, hey, we want so-and-so, without doing some investigation to find out where he's at or they're at. I don't mean to say he all the time, but we may send a suspect into hiding if we prematurely get out into the media and put stuff out. Now, if we don't have any leads and we have a situation where we don't know where a suspect is, then the media would be a great tool to help us out to get that information out. I think I beat the horse on that one. You guys good? Go to the next slide. This is just, if you guys wanted to see, this is our detective desks that we talked about earlier. These are the actual number of cases that are assigned to our detectives. So they're broken down here. Those are the about 1,200 cases that are open and active. This is how they're assigned. You can see our domestic violence. We have one detective in domestic violence, and there's 261 active cases, which is a very high load for them.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question?
Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai, go ahead.
Thank you. For crimes like wage theft and things like that, would that also fall under? Would that be like miscellaneous property or? So
what do you mean by
so wage? I'm an employee, and I know I have not been receiving my proper pay. Maybe there's violations of overtime rules, things like that. So who would West Covina PD be the proper agency, or is there a different agency for a crime like that? I mean, I know billions of dollars are stolen from workers every year.
Yeah, no, it's going to be regulated by the state. That's the minimum wage. So it's going to be a state investigative office. We would probably respond initially to take the initial We may refer them to a state agency. We have a resource guide we can look up. Or we can take the case. Those will be one of those cases that we will not investigate because it's an outside jurisdiction. But we may forward it to the proper authority and say, and we tell the person, hey, look, this doesn't fall under us. But there's a state agency that does investigate, and we're going to send your case to them.
Okay, so coming to the PDs would still be a good avenue because you would be able to connect them with the proper resource.
Yeah, of course, we encourage everybody to, if they have any questions or issues, to come to the police department, and we're there to help them sort it out.
Madam Mayor?
Go ahead, Councilman
Related
Cantus.
to that question, in this instance, with what Mayor Pro Tem Tabatabai was asking, would that fall under the Wage and Hour Division of the Department of Labor?
I think that would be the division.
Okay.
I'll default to your expertise, sir. Yes, sir.
Councilwoman Lopez Viado.
Is your presentation done? Or
Yeah, I was just going to ask for questions. Any questions?
yes. No, thank you for the presentation. This brings light to the many things that the detective unit does. Unfortunately, we or the public doesn't always hear about everything that goes on, which leads it back to communication, which is the biggest factor for me. I wanted to know, I know you mentioned things that go on the media, and you name like 3 top things that what goes on to the media. I know you mentioned, if there's a danger to the community, but for the resident, it's also nice to go out to the media just to know that, to put the community at ease, like that there is no danger. We got this. We got it covered. That being said, I wanted to know what qualifies for PD to do a press release, like what certain things you choose to put out there. And then the next one is what qualifies for PD to do a press conference. So I think that is the general sense of why things go out there and why some things are not. So I'd like that.
Sure.
Questions. Thank you.
I'll try to answer that the best that I can. Press releases is basically kind of a written form of a press conference. Press releases can go out. They're faster. They get disseminated quicker. It provides the community with the information. It's kind of it's on a case-by-case basis. Like, what are we looking to accomplish, and what are we putting out? So, anytime we have a situation where the public can be at danger, if we have a suspect that's on the loose that we think it may commit more crimes, we got to put that out fast, right? Get that out so people can be aware of what's going on. We may, there's Amber Alert systems and things like that we can utilize to get that information out. If there's information where we want to educate the public, like maybe there's a theft ring going on in the community or something where we can get the information out in the media to get that information blasted all over, that would be a situation where we can use that. Anytime we would need the media to help us, like if we're looking for like I mentioned before, if we're looking for a suspect, we have a suspect identified in a crime and say we have a warrant for the suspect, but we don't know the whereabouts of that suspect. We're going to turn to the media, and like we did the press conference in front of the station a few weeks ago. We had a suspect named and identified in a double homicide case that we're investigating, and we did a press conference to say this guy's wanted. If you know where he's at, we would like help in finding them. A press conference would just be when you want to get out in front of the media. I mean, if we had a major incident, officer-involved shooting, we're most likely going to have a press conference because people want answers. If there's any allegation of some type of wrongdoing on the part of the police department and it's a major case, we're definitely going to be having a press conference where the chief is going to be getting out in front. Actually, he's pointing back at me. He's like, no, it's your job. But we would get out in front of that and let the media know what's going on and, hey, we're actively investigating this incident, stuff like that. There's a gamut of reasons that we would use the media. But the press conference is to get a lot of viewers and reach a lot of people fast. I hope I answered your question.
Councilman Wu.
Quickly, okay, how many staff, okay, inside the Detective Bureau, okay, sworn and non-sworn. So how many entire unit and who is in charge? Okay, I think Travis is in charge, right?
Travis is our lieutenant, yes.
Yeah, would you please invite him to join you so we can identify who is in charge of this department?
Sure. So, Travis, would you like
And by the way, Chief, welcome back, okay? You're over there. Thank you so much for showing up, okay?
So,
hopefully everything's okay.
Thank you, Pauline. So I'm basically in charge of our investigative bureau. So the chief oversees the entire department. He has me that I oversee all of our investigations in our administrative function. Oversee hiring, all that stuff. Travis, I have 2 lieutenants that work with me. Travis is assigned to oversee the investigative bureau, and I have a lieutenant that oversees the administrative division.
So could you answer me the question of how many staff we have and how many sworn and how many non-sworn to have your entire department to take care of our investigation in our city?
So, well, it's on the slide. It's. I think, is it in front of you? So for our.
Could you answer me the question, please? Yeah. How many?
Yes, sir. We have 11 sworn detectives. Let's see. We have 1, 2, 3.
I saw it. Okay, I want him to answer.
4, 5, 6 civilians, and 2 sergeants.
So 11 swarm and 10?
6 civilian positions. And then we incorporate the marshals in the trap team under the detectives just for supervision. So you can, if you wanted to add those 2, you could say there's 13, but I would stick to 11 because they're not regular detectives.
Understand. The reason I want to invite Travis, okay, thank you so much for showing up. Okay, the reason is because last time he asked about the forensics, wants to approve that department, okay, and I think based on your presentation, that is a very strong department. Just want to understand, okay, how current the situation. Do we have a full staff? And last time you say, like you say, we can rent it out for other city to utilize this service. So how is the income compared with how many people we hire? So just want to see some information for that.
Do you want Travis to?
Yeah, Travis, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so good late evening to all of you. Back in January 2022, we presented to council to approve the hiring of a civilian forensic supervisor, and that was to rebuild our unit. Because of background process and the administrative process, we didn't actually get Adam McDonald to our police department to September. So the past few months, we've been in a rebuild phase where he has to go over all the contracts with other cities. He had to get our lab up to date. So we're really still in the infancy stages of rebuilding that potential to work for other agencies and potentially get revenue. We're also looking at the number of latent and patent fingerprints, one visible, not visible, that are being collected by patrol officers in today's field work. That we have noticed has been on a decline. That could be for a number of reasons. That could be because of the prevalence of DNA. There's a lot more DNA swabbing occurring in property crimes. When DNA first came about, predominantly in the early 2000s is really when we started seeing a drastic increase in how DNA was used. It was only analyzed really for violent crimes against persons. The technology has increased to the point where now DNA is being analyzed for property crimes. So there's a transition. We've been noticing a trend of transition away from obtaining fingerprints. So what Adam's doing for us, to answer your question, is to see how we can utilize our current forensic supervisor. Potentially, if it makes sense to hire a second one, we would need a second one to do fingerprint analysis. We can contract that out if we need to for the second person and compare how we can go out and offer our services to those other cities.
I just want to understand, we approved 2022 last year, January.
Yes.
So we want to review, okay, and the forensic department. Okay, so I understand you have some difficulty. So currently, we still have a not up and running forensics department.
Yes, so we hired the supervisor, but we have not been authorized to hire the 2 additional positions.
Yeah, but last time he only requests the supervisor to help to build the forensics. My understanding is
No, we requested all 3 at the same time. It was a series together.
so we approve that too, right?
Yes, sir.
So now the difficulty is we haven't find the right person, or
No, we don't have the financing to budget that position yet.
but we approved the 3%, right? What we approved based on your request in January
We
last.
approved the creation of all 3 positions, and then in last year's budget, we were approved to add the supervisor only. So we still have 2 open positions that need to be budgeted and funded so we can fill them.
So basically, your request 3 positions to build out your forensic department that can be functional. Because if you halfway, what's the point, right? We need to have a forensic department like you request, so we can have outer city, like you say, a proud forensic big department that outer city don't have. Then we can provide a service for that for them. Am I right? Is that what you want to do?
Absolutely.
Am I right?
Well,
yes.
That is correct. The forensic unit in our police department is primarily going to be for our residents and our crime scenes here. As a secondary option, and what we have done historically in the past over the years is offer services to other cities to provide fingerprints to be analyzed by our personnel. And that's where the revenue in the past had came from with the contracted cities. But the forensics unit still needs to be available in our police department to go process our crime scenes for criminal crimes that occur here in our city.
Understand. So now do we have the fingerprint staff to help us to possible to gain the revenue?
Yeah, we have our forensic supervisors there. He is an expert. He can analyze fingerprints. He is doing that now. We are utilizing a contract service, an individual that's an expert. We pay him to do the secondary. It just took Adam a few months to get a hold on everything that's occurring here because he came from another agency. So from September to January, we needed this time we have to go over all the contracts with the cities because some of those have expired. So he has been contacting the command staffs from those cities.
So meaning we have to rebuild the relationship with all the city.
That's correct.
We've been left for a while, hopefully not too long, so we can bring this relationship back, so we can invest in this personnel or this division, so we can provide a better service, not only the in-house plus outer city. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So right now, I don't know what do we have analyzed based on this request. Maybe increase more staffing. Do we have the budget to help them to basically that can create the money back to us based on what you say last year, right? I'm talking about to create this 3 position, then we can utilize contract with outer city to provide because you're talking about we set up the lab, so meaning we can
I would recommend that we start with our forensics supervisor now, get the contracts back in order with the other cities.
So we have income.
We get them to start providing, once again, any fingerprints they're taking from their crime scenes, start analyzing those, and bill respectively to those agencies. Once we get that process reinitiated, I would recommend that we can then at the city manager approval, bring something back to the council to look at a second position. Right now, I do have somebody that we pay by the hour to do the secondary identification of the fingerprints, which is prudent thing to do at this point as we rebuild.
So basically, when you say you build a lab, so what kind of lab is that? Is a forensic lab to analyze blood or analyze DNA or
all kinds of evidence.
Okay, so
we do not have a DNA lab, but we those forensic specialists are trained in the collection and preservation of DNA to be able to process those to the point where they can be presented to a DNA lab.
So basically, we collect the DNA. We still have to send out to get a DNA component, so we can go to the national database to find the potential.
That's a whole nother talk that would be here for a long time.
Oh, no. But I just want to understand, okay, based on last year we approved, we talk about update, right? We just need an update, okay, based on what we approve, and hopefully we build this, what we approve to get what you want, and what council want is to balance the budget with, okay, and we can contract with city, and you're talking about it's a good investment, so we can have all the city service, okay, using our service.
Specifically, latent fingerprint analysis.
That's the major resource or revenue to us?
That would be our expertise here at West Covina Police Department, would be the ability to provide fingerprint analysis for other agencies.
Oh, okay. So that is something we already providing right now?
That is something historically that West Covina has done since late 1980s or mid 1980s. But on the decline, when we started losing our personnel, particularly when we lost our last person that left to another agency, we lost a lot of that business that we're trying to recuperate now that we've hired.
Are we building back this department now? Are we building back this relationship based on last year the approval, and that's what you're trying to do? But currently we haven't built it up due to some other issue, but it's coming. So how soon we can get this up and running, then full service like back in 1990 that we are very
I'm hoping
capable.
to report back in the next couple months that we've reestablished relationships with these agencies. Our supervisor, right as we speak this week, was analyzing the contracts and recontacting command staffs from all those agencies.
So 2 months you can have a chance to bring back to us, let this department, this division is up and running, and the fingerprint to us provide a service for all the agency.
I will tell you that it is up and running. We're analyzing fingerprints, any that were given in the period of time where when the last employee left, between when our current employee arrived. He's going through all those fingerprints that had not been analyzed, so he's doing that now, and that also includes any latent fingerprint that are coming in from our own police officers. So he is actively analyzing fingerprints as we speak.
Good. So currently we're capable, but hopefully by 2 months we can have a much more fulfilled, okay, and department that we can provide the service.
We would need at least another person in that unit, because like Travis said, the only way we can verify prints now is we have to pay somebody third party. So we're basically paying somebody to verify the prints, but we need somebody in-house that can do that.
Bring the proposal to the city manager and the chief
third body,
and see how it goes, and the investment will come back based on the service. My last question, I want to give my other council have a chance, is about like our councilwoman Letty talking about the police, the media, how we use the media, because you see the lady with that very tremendous tragedy to the family. So, but based on like the feeling is she feel like our police department doesn't care. But it's not true, because I've been talking to you guys all the time. So how can we, like you say, you have one staff to try to do the victim, right, and try to talk to the victim all the time. But do we have somebody to helping that they understand? City is really trying. We even provide $50,000 reward, and they feel like the 2 years already we haven't given them anything.
We're in constant contact with the family. Our detectives are assigned to reach out to Gabby's husband constantly. There is some difference of opinion as far as how things go within the family. So we're working on that. I've talked to Ms. Rios several times. She's a grieving mom, and we're heartbroken over it. And, we're looking at moving forward with her if she wants to get out in front of the media and do a press release for the reward. We're more than happy to assist her. And there's just been some conflict on some people not wanting to do it and her wanting to push it within their own unit, and we're just hoping that gets worked out.
Based on they've been texting me all the time, and I've been trying to help them. I even sent a text to city manager to the police department, see how can we help them, because we let them understand city not abandon them at all. Our police departments to continue we want to make sure the justice will be served to the family and plus bring justice to Gabby. Okay, I think this is important to. It's tremendous loss with the loved one. We all understand. So we need to kind of. I know you're trying to do your best. So how can we have a better communication? So okay, they don't feel like we are not doing anything for them. That's the feeling I feel. They always text me for. Requests, and I try to forward to city managers, see what we can do for them. This is one issue, okay. But another media issue is I just have a suggestion. For example, high profile. This is a high profile one. Then we have another high profile with double homicide, okay. And everybody on the street already know they have a third party camera running around. We are the only person don't know. But if when this double homicide happen, it's good for you. Department come out to say, okay, we have a person interest. It's not release any information, but there's no element danger to the community. So at least people want to know what happened. So in that way, our community is not endangered. It's drive-by shooting, gang war or something. People scared. So I don't know what is the protocol for some issue like this thing happen.
Yeah, we ended up doing a press release on that, but as far as the initial information, a lot of the information that was swirling around and maybe the facts from what was word on the street was not the facts. So there was some bad information that went out early on in that case about who was in custody, who wasn't, how many people were involved. And, because of those details didn't really endanger the public, but they were pertinent to our case in that longevity, that prosecution goal that we're looking at. We can't come out and refute some of that stuff that's swirling around. So we can present information that we can present, but we can only present accurate information.
Understand. Okay. Last question. Okay, I'm done. Okay. Have we arrested the guy yet?
He has not been found yet.
Have been found yet. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate your answer.
Thank you.
Betty Lopez.
Thank you,
Councilwoman.
So my question is, I know, like with the grieving mother, I think the purpose of that is just to be heard. So and this not just applies to her, but for anything else. So if media is out there covering the news story, it'd be nice for PD, even if it's a quick blurb. I'm not asking to share, detailed information, simple as PD is covering it. We're working on it. In this case, with the press conference, any information, please give that, share it. But you don't have to. But all we're asking, and I don't know if I'm speaking on behalf of the council, but to put something out there and just state something. And, I know, and I've made it known that I hate it when the news media comes out and then they say, PD says no comment. But we fixed that, so thank you. I know you've now at least put a statement out, something. It like I mentioned, it doesn't have to have the details or anything, but just to put something out moving forward.
We are 100% in support of the family doing a press conference, and we will be there to support them. As far as information on the case, we have no update, and we won't be providing any information. So when you go on a news conference and you say, I have no information, it's just like saying no comment. People don't like that. So what we're going to do is show our support for the family, and we'll reiterate the fact that the city has offered the reward in conjunction with the county and the monies that the family's raised. And we will be there to support that. And we have made that offer to the family. But like I said, there's been some, I don't want to do it, we want to do it, I want to do it, we don't want to do it, back and forth. So we've been waiting out of respect for the family when the timing is right for them. And I think Ms. Rios is going to come talk to the city manager tomorrow. And like I told her, we are here to support her. We mentioned a grieving mother because she's a grieving mother and she has emotions that go up and down, and, she has her feelings, and we respect that. And what I told her is we want to solve this case. Our detectives want to solve this case. It eats at us when we don't. So we are working as hard as we can to bring justice to that family, but we have to do it in the right way. And in conversations with her, she understands that, but a grieving mother has a lot of emotion to deal with, and I totally respect it, and I understand where she's coming from, and she's allowed to vent, and she's picked this forum to vent, and we're going to allow her that, but we are there to support her and her family 100%.
Thank you.
Councilman Cantos.
Acting Chief Plunkett and Lieutenant, real quick, to what extent does if we were to have increased staffing and we were to add one more person, would that satisfy the needs that we have to support our residents with regard to the level of fingerprint analysis that is presently needed?
I think ultimately, sir, we would like to fill that unit to capacity with 3, but 2 would be a great start. If we could add 1 more, I think we'd be well on our way.
That was my next question. So if we were to add a 3rd, then would the revenue that would be generated from contracts from other cities be enough that would ultimately pay for that 3rd position?
No, sir. The one figure I gave from a couple years ago was about $27,000 that we generated, and we're estimating when we did the forensic series, we estimated if we had a fully functional unit, meaning added the 3 bodies, which really 2 at a time, right? That 3rd is for relief and to do other things.
Sure.
So you have the 2, so you can get the print and then the analysis together to get it court certified. We estimate somewhere between realistically $15,000 and maybe on the high side $35,000 a year. What Travis and the forensics supervisor have been talking about is, are there other services we can provide, but at the same time making sure that we have the resources available for our residents first. So it would be some supplemental income, but we would never say that would be enough to pay for a position.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Wu?
Yeah, because if we cannot utilize the revenue to compensate with our expenditure, then what's the point if we hire so many people? Why not we just outsourcing out? Maybe that would be cheaper.
Yeah, no, I'll just say the person we outsource to right now is getting ready to 100% retired because he's been retired twice and he's really not into it. So once we lose that resource, we're not going to have the verification available. We need that in-house, and that's what makes our system unique is they can get not only the print, the ID, and then the verification for court all at the same place. And providing bodies, one person can't process all of our crime scenes and do all of our evidence by themselves. They have to have help. So it's not solely about a revenue generation. It's about a service we're providing, and as a bonus, we may take in some money and help the surrounding community.
I understand, but I think we need to look into our budgets to make sure that this is that we can afford this additional. Because based on last year with Travis, and the presentation is if we doing this forensic, we can have all the service compensate back to our staff salary, this and that. But if we only get $35,000, I think it's far away from the staff we hire plus the pension plus all this medical. So I think our finance director have to look into, can we afford it? I know we can have a better service, but during this time, is that feasible into our budget? Because my understanding last year, January, based on the presentation, is we can utilize this and that we can compensate with the person we hire. But now it sounds like we only get the most, $35,000.
Yeah,
like the max.
The number that was in that actual requisition form when we requested those services was $15,000 to $35,000. So it was never estimated any higher than that. It would offset.
So we maybe have a look into from our budget. And because some look like they want to hire more people, but do we need this, or should we have a more patrol, or should we have more traffic enforcement? Because where we spend our money, should we spend the money into the forensic, the fingerprint, or we spend the money into the traffic, or spend the money into the patrol? So where we identify, locate only the money we have. It's not like we have unlimited money to spend all the places.
If you're asking my opinion, I say yes.
I understand. I'm asking city manager. Yes. You want everything. I know it. You want as much money we can spend. But we need to control.
That's not true.
We want to control our budget to make sure.
It's not about the money.
Can I finish, please?
Sure.
I just want to make sure we wisely using the only budget we have. and to put the right places. Okay, it's not like, I think the service is great, but a lot of people complaining about traffic, that we have no traffic enforcement. I understand that we only have one motorcycle traffic officer, only one in this big city. So as you are the acting chief, okay, and our captain, how we relocate to make sure, because I know we just have people killed on the traffic accident at the Morganfield and Valley. So we have a lot of people killed on the traffic accident. So where we put our money, should we put the money into the forensic, put the fingerprint, or should we put this into the enforcement to slow down the traffic? So anyway, this is a judgment call. Okay, but again, this will be the chief and you guys to decide. And we just want a safe city. And we want to identify the money, how will we spend the money into it. But if we have a lot of money, of course, we just hire more people, but we just have to carefully utilize our only resource we have. We just don't want to overspend, and then later on we have a problem.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
I have a question. So how many employees do we have working in this forensic division?
How many employees currently?
Right.
One.
Just one.
Yes.
So is that the one that we approved on January 2022?
Yeah, the record supervisor.
So he's the supervisor, and he's the one that wants to leave?
No.
Okay.
No, our detective that we had previous, he's
the one that left
and went for another agency, yes.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
Adam was his replacement. We went with a supervisor, so we hired Adam, and then we have 2 vacant positions that we created.
Okay. So Adam is your supervisor that was approved? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now, do you have enough work just with our city to keep him busy?
Yes.
And so if you have the other 2, will there still be enough work for the other 2 that we hire?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, these contracts from these other cities would just be another extra money. Like you said, it was only going to be about $15,000 that you estimated in your last, when they requested this forensic. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to go back. I know Councilman Wu touched on it a little, but I noticed that the patrol officer issue, which he had brought up, I don't see anything here regarding traffic officers. Is there a reason for that? Where would traffic officers be here? Would they even be here?
Traffic would fall under the patrol division, so this was just an overview of our detective bureau, so they weren't included. This is just detective personnel.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So I guess that would be another meeting?
Yeah.
Because we need to address that. That's that's the biggest complaint that I've seen in the past 2 years that I've been here, is that there's a lot of traffic accidents, there's a lot of speeding, and it seems like that's something that we really need to focus on. So I'm hoping that we can get some more traffic officers out there in the future. I think it's really important, and I just thought I'd bring it up. It's not here.
Madam Mayor, one last question.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Offline, Acting Chief Pluckett, we talked about Citizens Academy, and I know we were going to touch base about that. Can you talk about the extent to which that effort and that apparatus and our bringing together residents can help to ease the burden that sworn officers already have, whether it's the Detective Bureau or other things? And if you could just share information about that so that residents can learn where they may get involved and how they may apply.
Okay, you're talking as it feeds into the volunteer program?
Right.
Okay. If I can just go back real quick, just I know this isn't a presentation on traffic or patrol, and that would be for another time, but I do have some statistics just to let you guys know. In 2020, we had 10 fatal accidents. In 2021, we had 5, and in 2022, we had 3. So there's been a big reduction in fatal accidents in our city. Any fatal accidents is terrible.
Right.
But just so you guys know that the amount of fatals is going down, and it has been consistently for the last 2 years. So to your question, sir, so we are engaging in bringing back the Citizens Academy, which will begin in March. And it's just an opportunity to highlight our department, what we do, show the residents who are willing to come and listen, all the aspects of the department, because there's many things that the department does. It gives them a sense of, partnership. They come in and, they see everything we do. We kind of open the hood for them and they come and learn all about the department. Now, we do encourage those who attend to then look into our volunteer program if that's something that's right for them. Many people who come are just interested and they're not really interested in volunteering. But we do have a volunteer program, and this is how some get their start. And we utilize our volunteers in many different capacities. They come in on the crime scenes. Our volunteers are so great. We used to call them SHOP. They used to be seniors. It used to be a senior program, but we've opened it up to everybody who's over 18. But they'll come out in the middle of the night on a crime scene, and they'll just sit in their car and block the street for us so we can get to other duties. They run errands for us. They take packets to the court. I'm sure they go to Tom's office to drop off paperwork. They just do a lot of things that the officers can't do. And they're a tremendous help and a tremendous support. So if anybody's interested as a plug and you want to come to the Citizens Academy, we're going to be flying it on social media here in the next week or so. And we'd love to see you. And if you're interested in our volunteer program, we'd love to hear from you and talk to you and see if it's for you.
Councilman Wu?
I want to quickly follow through. I know it's not traffic, it's not
sir.
patrol, okay, but since you mentioned
Yes, sir.
going down 5 or 3, but we kind of maybe lucky, okay, for last years, okay, but this year we already have one on the Morganfield and Valley or Clubhouse Avenue. So we got one already. So what I'm saying is this, but I don't see too many of traffic enforcement. So that's why the concern plus the resident react to us, okay, say, where is our traffic enforcement? So hopefully, and the big week going to our city like crazy, okay, not even get enforced about they shouldn't be there, okay, and they should be on the street, only allowed for the 16-wheeler. So again, a lot of this traffic issue just want to bring to your attention.
Absolutely.
Okay, and hopefully we can continue to improve. I understand, look like the number going down, but when number will go up again, I know back in 2018, we have 18 person killed in that year. Okay, and that is the most I've ever seen. It's just a lot. So maybe unlucky that year. Okay, and now we a little bit luckier. Again, the point is we didn't see the enforcement. So hopefully we can continue to keep this as low as we can, because any fatality is a tragedy to their family.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I agree with you. Yes, sir.
Councilwoman Lopez Villaro?
Thank you again for coming to present. Thank you for the press conference that you did and that you spoke. The shop, I remember changing that when I came to council because it was only seniors, and I said open it up to 18 and over, and we took care of that. In regards to the detective unit, for me it is important to catch the suspect at the quickest method and have justice be served quickly, because a lot of times the residents, when things happen to the residents, they think, well, PD just writes a report, nothing is done about it. But when the turnaround is quick and they see that justice is served, they know that West Covina, the PD, means business, and we don't, just play around and, showcasing. And I do hope that you showcase these things and, you let the public know that this is being done, so that they're aware that, okay, it gives other people thinking, okay, let me not just mess with West Covina, let me go somewhere else where you can get away with something. So I just want to make sure, keep up the good work, but I want to make sure that you showcase all these things. So, yeah.
Perfect. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Understood.
Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate.
Okay, let's see. Any council reports? Any council requests?
Reports, ma'am?
Reports, okay.
Just wanted to let folks know that I'm going to be holding a district town hall meeting this Saturday at 10 a.m. at Rainbow Donuts, but it will also be in future locations, different sites around the city for optimal support. And I just look forward to being there to listen to whatever folks have to say and to being of help whatever way I can. And that's my report.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh. Thank you. Okay. Any council requests?
Madam Mayor,
Councilman Cantu?
I was wondering if by unanimous consent, if I could request that staff provide us with a written report regarding the Sportsplex, because it's been closed and there's been rain and there's been some maintenance issues, and if the staff could provide a report that would detail not only the maintenance that's been done, but also that would provide residents with information about when it's going to be reopened, so that way everyone can enjoy the park. I mean the Sportsplex.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I will support that. Your request. I think it's about. I know it's been closed due to maintenance and this and that, and really want to know how they fix it, or what is the detail, and when they're going to reopen. I think this is something a lot of people want to know, and hopefully we can see the money spent and how the future program implement. So hopefully those numbers can balance, and based on that, we can have opened up to all the residents to review it. I will suppose.
So you'll second it?
I second.
Okay. Roll call?
Hearing no objection, we're going to go ahead.
We're done.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Madam Mayor, I only have one more, and it's to request that the staff do a report that would describe its ongoing efforts to build an internship program to really optimize economic empowerment for our adults and to enable people to work for this city, and also to look into partnering up with funding opportunities where funding for those interns could come from different sources in order to attract high quality candidates.
I actually in support of that, because I know, was it maybe 2 years ago, or when I came in, I pushed for the interns, which they did that. But in reference to Councilman Cantos, what he's mentioning, I mean, I would love to see it expanded, because I do see programs that I know that I partner up with that pays them, because I know sometimes our interns don't get paid, which is kind of hard to work with no payment. But if you can partner up with organizations that they go through them and they intern here, but they also get a paid benefit. But I would love to see that internship expanded along with a partnership, so that they can be also compensated. Yes, thank you.
Councilman Wu?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Okay, I think 2016 we have expansion of internship program is still on our side, but in this couple of years it's kind of falling apart. So thank you so much to bring this back. I think this is something important to have our department, to especially HR, to send all this request to each of college into their student affairs. Say our city request internship, and I request is a paid internship.
Yeah.
It cannot be non-pay, and it's not everybody can afford it. Driving around and come to city work without pay. At least we should give them at least minimum like $15 per hour or that kind of thing, and they potentially they can become a full time for us, our future employees. So we need to open this door for our future internship and student and youth to come to our city. So for that, I'm strongly support your Madam Mayor.
Okay.
No objection.
No objections? Anything else? That's it? Okay. Do I have the...
Oh, we have comments?
Okay.
Not a request. Just
Comment? No.
I just have a couple comments. Next Tuesday, the 24th, we have our homeless count. So we still need volunteers. So you can go to theycountwillyou.org to sign up for that. It'll be Cameron Park, 8 p.m. Again, we're still looking for more volunteers. And then the other thing, one of our great organizations here, the city, West Covina Beautiful, is also having the birthday bash on February 25th at Hirsch Ranch. So big time of celebration. And again, a way for us to all meet each other and celebrate with each other. So that's it. Thank you.
Councilman Wu.
Since the Mayor Pro Tem Tabai has so many comments, I want to have some comments. Just try to beat him up. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, I just want to wish everybody have a very happy Lunar New Year. And this coming Sunday, okay, that is Lunar New Year. So do you know what year of the symbol is? Go ahead.
Rabbit.
Rabbit, yes. Year of the rabbit. Okay, if you are year of the rabbit, okay, you born that year, okay,
my year.
meaning you're going to be very, very lucky. But other than that, I wish you everybody a happy Lunar New Year and all your wishes come true. And 恭喜发财, meaning wish you prosper and lucky all the time.
Okay.
And I will be waiting for my red envelope.
My red envelope will depend on your behavior. And it will be showing up in my wallet at next council meeting.
Oh my God.
Because our councilman Kento haven't received my red envelope yet. So, and the lucky money, okay, and hopefully bring you all the prosperity.
Okay. We done? Okay. This meeting's adjourned.
Hey, congratulations, your first meeting.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.